Okay, we'll call our meeting back to order and we had one of those nights tonight where we had some events that carried on and we had one event that was canceled and then we had about an hour and a half of a break. So what we did is rather than going into a closed session at 10 o'clock at night, we decided to move that up a little earlier. So we did open our meeting. Nobody was here, but we opened it and immediately went into a closed session. So we're coming out of the closed session, and the basic statement coming out of that is that council met in a closed session and were provided with a verbal update on staffing and legal claims. So we will I guess, call our meeting to order. And I think it would be appropriate if we, if at this stage of the game, if council and our guests, if they so wish, will just bow our head for a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. All right. So as we come together, and we do this on the first meeting of council, and the first meeting is usually the first meeting in December. So we do the land acknowledgement, and so that we're going to start off with that tonight. And as we come together, we are reminded that the municipality of West Perth is situated on treaty land of the Anishinaabe. A full land acknowledgement will be read in 2026 ceremony, which has been postponed from this evening. At that time, we'll have Chief Henry here to join us as well. So moving on, anything to add to the agenda, James?
Thank you, through the chair. We do have 3 additional correspondence items noted under item 9, and that is with respect to conservation authorities, and those are received from our partner conservation authorities at Asable Bayfield, Maitland Valley, and Upper Thames River. I would also note that staff are requesting to move forward item 8.91, being the PC Connect item, to follow item 8.1. as listed on your report agenda this evening. So we're asking to move that item up and forward and deal with it at that time. I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. Okay, so a motion would be in order that we accept the agenda as amended or with those additions. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, if you find yourself, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, through you, Mayor McKenzie, on agenda item 8.11. That's the report for K&D Rose Construction Limited, WP 19-02 K&D Rose Construction Limited. Because the subject matter that's being discussed is potentially subject to a Section 28 permit application process at Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and because I am the current chair of the UTRCA Hearings Committee that might have to hear a Section 28 appeal on that matter, potentially, I must recuse myself from the discussion of this agenda item before West Perth Council, and as a consequence, I would have to also recuse myself from agenda item 16.1, the confirmatory bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So noted. Anybody else? All right, moving on then, we have the consent item or consent agenda items there. There is actually 14 items. Is there anything there that anybody would like pulled or further clarification on? Councillor Fournier?
Just 2, please, 5.2 and 5.5.
.2 and 5.5, was it?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. Are these items that if we discuss now that we can just leave them in the consent agenda and carry on and then approve the whole thing? Okay, let's go to 5.2 and I'll let you comment on that one.
Very simple concept, really. Any way that the government can sort of aid behind the scenes or get out of the way of not-for-profit organizations in our communities is probably for the best, considering that these organizations are essentially an unofficial level of taxation in that they're supported by the community that they operate in, helping them out in whatever way possible that we can fit into our budget without actually directly donating to them in some cases would probably be to the benefit of the community as a whole. And when it comes to 5.5, the opposition to the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, essentially the bits in there that change endangered species status and get rid of local consultation and whatnot, I can't help but agree with East Gwillimbury on that. This whole thing needs a bit more discussion before it goes into effect.
Okay, thank you. So I'm thinking what you have in mind here with 5.2 in particular, you would like us to support that resolution. So we'll pull both 5.2 and 5.5 and deal with them separately. And we'll deal with them right now. And if you would like to move support for 5.2, if we have a seconder for that, seconded by Councillor Foster. Okay, so Councillor Fournier gave you his explanation and kind of explained that. Is there anybody has any further questions or anything further to add? Deputy Mayor?
Well, and through you, your worship, through Bill 5 has already received royal assent, or it's already in effect, but nonetheless, I support Councillor Fournier's comments.
Okay, so noted. All right, so 5.2 has been duly moved and seconded that we support the township of Sleewan, I guess it's called, is it, James? Sullivan? Okay, all those in favor of supporting that? Opposed, if any? So that is carried. And then 5.5 East, Gwillimbury, opposition to Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act. I'll let you just maybe highlight that again, Andrew, if you so wish.
For one extra detail, if you read the letter that they sent, they're talking about how something like 83% of their municipality is actually going to be affected by some of the new developments that are going to be happening. You put that into perspective with lack of local consultation. You can see that there's at least one council in our province that is in serious need because of this change, or possibly a municipality in distress, as it were. And also the idea of moving endangered species into a less protected status just doesn't strike me as being a terribly Canadian thing to do. Like at the beginning of the meeting, we have this land acknowledgement thing that mentions our stewardship of the land and the river systems and the air. Letting endangered species get more endangered doesn't even fit with our land acknowledgement. We can't support that.
You're correct there for sure. Okay, so you're willing to move that. Deputy Mayor, do you want to second that? Like you said you would
Yes,
support it?
yeah.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right, so now we head out to the recommendation for the consent agenda. And the consent, it is that the municipality of West Perth accept consent agenda items 5.1. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to say 5.1 to 5.14 with the exception of 5.2 and 5.5. Is that good? We're pulling out the two that we, and the minute, well, yeah, and the minutes, which is 5.13. Okay, so do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Duck, Councillor Rose? Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right. We have a couple delegations here tonight. The first one is the OMERS presentation. And I believe that did I miss something? I have Omer's first and then the high school delegation. So, and I can't see if we're online here or not. I know she's supposed to join us by Zoom. Are
Yes,
We're
I'm
here?
here. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So we do have Alexandra Castaneda. Did I do that right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. Usually I murder them, so I hope I wasn't too bad. So anyway, she is going to give us a little bit of a presentation on Omer's. And so I will turn the floor over to you.
Okay, perfect. Just before I start, can you confirm you're able to hear me okay? See screen, everything?
We can hear you great,
And you can see the presentation?
and we can see the presentation. Everything is
Okay.
good.
Wonderful. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And this is a presentation to learn more about the function of the OMERS pension plan. So with that, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Alessandra, and I work on the pension education and relationship management team at OMERS. So what that really means is that I have the best job there. And that's because I'm one of the few facing external teams. So we actually travel all across the province. And we have two different functions. We work with our employer administrators, and that's to ensure that the plan is being administered correctly on behalf of plan members. And then we also work directly with members, and we facilitate many different types of education sessions so that everyone has the knowledge to make the most out of this great pension plan that awaits them throughout their retired life. And I have to admit, doing this particular part of my job, the opportunity to engage with the public is definitely the best part of it. So I am very happy to be here today, and I'm looking forward to this presentation. I will be taking you through many different slides throughout the course of the next 10-15 minutes, but I will encourage you to ask questions. So at the end of the presentation, we can open up the floor, and if there's anything that comes to mind, I am more than happy to address those. Now with that, looking at the agenda for tonight, we are going to be covering a couple different topics about the OMERS plan. And we are going to begin with those two questions that are on most members' minds, and that is the when can I retire and the how much can I retire with. So with that, I will begin by taking a look at how that pension is calculated. OMERS is a defined benefit pension plan, meaning what members receive is based on a set formula, and we want you all to understand which factors throughout your careers would determine the type of pension that you could receive. And then equally as important, we'll spend some time discussing those milestones. So that's the when can we all retire. In that section, I'll also take you through some potential early retirement milestones that hopefully help some of you potentially retire earlier. Then we'll shift gears a bit and we'll cover my favorite topic. That's maximizing the pension. That's the idea of receiving a bit more money before retirement and different opportunities available as an active member. Then we'll touch on that additional voluntary contribution program. I'm not going to be spending too much time here, but I will give you a bit of a sneak peek as to some additional savings vehicles that OMERS offers members. And then last but not least, survivor benefits. This is definitely not the happiest way for us to be ending our time together tonight, but it is a key feature of the plan. So it would be very important to understand who's entitled to receive a benefit and exactly what they'd be entitled to receive. So before we get into everything, let's first take a little trip down memory lane. So OMERS was founded back in 1962, and this was done at a time where there were many municipalities across the province that were not providing their employees with a pension. So that's where OMERS came in, and it was designed with the intention of being that reliable, sustainable, and predictable source of retirement income for those dedicating part of their lives to public service. In that very first year, so back in 1962, OMERS would have started off with 160 employer groups that signed on to OMERS. This represented a total of 8,000 members. And at that time, we started off with $5 million in working capital. Fast forward to the end of 2024, safe to say that the plan has had tremendous growth. We now have over 1,000 employer groups currently participating with over $140 billion in net assets. And that makes OMERS the third largest pension plan in Canada when we look at asset size. If you're guessing which pension plans are in the top two seats, who does OMERS trail right behind? Number 2 would be the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. And number 1 is the one that we all pay into as working Canadians, and that's, of course, Canada's pension plan. We, of course, would not have had this growth without our membership. So in part, we have all of our members to thank for this tremendous growth. And the bulk of that today would come from active members. So that would be myself and employees that currently work, they pay contributions into the OMERS plan. Then we have just over 200,000 pensioners. And those are the members that I like to say they are living that OMERS dream and collecting that monthly pension payment. Youngest member is 14, oldest is 106. So you can see there is a very large range of members we're serving all across Ontario. My favorite stat to highlight on this slide by far is that we have 335 members over the age of 100. We see this number to continue to grow with each passing year. And I love sharing it because I think it goes to show the value what OMERS can bring to yourselves, your families, and your retirement. I always say no pressure, but the goal is to be just like them, where you live and collect this for as long as you possibly can. Now we're going to take a look at how the pension's calculated. And when we're looking at this formula, you see that there's two lines. And the reason that there's two lines is because there are potentially two different benefits that OMERS can pay in retirement. Breaking this down, everyone who retires is going to receive what we call a lifetime pension, and we'll pay a lifetime pension from the day a member retires, and that's paid to them throughout the course of their lifetime. Anyone who retires before the age of 65, they would receive that lifetime pension, but they also receive a temporary top-up that OMERS refers to as the bridge benefit. So we do automatically pay a bridge if someone's retiring before they turn 65, and we'll pay that until the member's 65th birthday, because that's traditionally when they're eligible for those government sources unreduced. So what we'll do now is I'll break this up line by line, and I'll start off with the first line that's on the screen. So this top line, this is how OMERS would be calculating a member's pension if they retire before they turn 65. So this top line here, this includes both that lifetime plus bridge benefit. And so in order to calculate this, what we would do is we would do the 2%. We would multiply that by the member's credited service in years. Credited service, that is how much time the member has worked for their OMERS employer, and it's time that they have paid into the plan. So for example, if you're a full-time worker and you work a full year, there we would be entering a 1. For anyone who's part-time, and let's say they work 50% of a year, there we'll enter a 0.5. And the whole idea there is each year that you work and you make those contributions year after year, that number increases. Then we would multiply that by the average of your best 5 earnings, which we at OMERS, we would commonly refer to that as your highest 60 consecutive months of earnings. We have a lot of our members who tend to refer to that as my last 5 years. And if you've ever heard that before, it's because it's generally when earnings are the highest. A lot of people do experience that closer towards the end of their careers, but it is important to know that we don't always default to using a member's final years. What we do in all scenarios for all of our members is that we will always scan through your entire employment record, and we will identify exactly where those best 5 years fell. Sometimes it is the last 5, not always, but it does need to be your highest 60 consecutive months, wherever that may have happened throughout your careers. And again, top line, this is how we're calculating the pension amounts for a member retiring before they turn 65. At 65, that bridge benefit does come off, and because it's already paid through that top line, now that someone's turning 65, we would need to reduce it by that value. And so to calculate the bridge benefit, we look at line 2, and there what we're doing is the 0.675% multiplied by those credited service. This would be the same number that we enter into that top line. And then we'll multiply that by either the lesser of a member's best 5 or the current 5-year average of the CPP's earnings limit, which for 2025, that number is 66,580. There, we'll use whichever number is smaller, which ultimately is a good thing because line 2 is a deduction, and you would always want that number to be as small as possible. Now, for some of you, this formula might be as clear as mud. And if that's the case, not to worry, I'm going to give you some examples in the coming slides to illustrate how this all comes together. But the key takeaway at this particular point is that the two main factors are always going to be a member's contributory earnings as well as their service. The higher those numbers are, the more they increase year after year, the better lifetime pension you do receive. Now, looking at some of those retirement milestones, I mentioned credited service. That's the type of service embedded into a member's formula. But there is another type of service as well that members can earn, and that's referred to as eligible service. So eligible service, this is any time that a member may have spent working with an OMERS employer in their career, but it is time they did not pay into the plan. And this happens for many reasons, but some really common examples we see could be perhaps when you first joined Perth, maybe you would have joined in a contract or part-time capacity, and several years ago, you did have to satisfy some eligibility before you would have been offered the opportunity to enroll. So that period from when you were first hired to when you formally enrolled, that is an excellent example of eligible service. It could also be time from way back when. Maybe some of you worked part-time throughout your schooling years, or you worked the summer months at your local library board. That's also a very good example of eligible service. So I would encourage all of you, if you do end up signing up with OMERS, to visit the website. You can get access to an employer listing where you're able to scan through all of the employers that participate, and you may surprise yourself. You may have worked for one and not necessarily have known that it was with OMERS. Let us know. We will help you have this service added on to your record. It's very valuable, worth doing so, because it does often save you from what otherwise are large reductions to the pension if you did want to consider an early retirement. Now we have two different retirement milestones. So we have a normal retirement age of 65, and this is what applies for all civilian employees in the OMERS plan. And then we also have a normal retirement age of 60, and this would apply for first responders. Due to the nature of their jobs, they do get the opportunity to retire a bit sooner, but they are also paying higher contribution rates throughout their careers. The normal retirement age, that stands for the age in which a member is eligible for an unreduced pension, regardless of how many years of service they have in the plan. There are early retirement options built in, meaning we can all start collecting that monthly pension payments up to 10 years prior. So for civilians, payments are available to members as early as 55. In between the age of 55 and 65, you could be eligible to receive an unreduced pension if you have either 30 years of service, or if your age plus your total service equals 90. And the key word there would be or, of course. So it's not 30 years and that 90 factor, it's whichever one you hit first. That would be your earliest possible unreduced retirement date. That being said, we also recognize that we have lots of members that did start working with their employers a little bit later on in their careers. And the reality is that they won't have those 30 years. They won't meet that 90, 85 factor, but they do have hopes to retire sooner, in which case it is an option, but there would be a 5% reduction per point that a member is short of that closest retirement milestone. And it's going to be 5% that you're away from either turning 65, having those 30 years, or meeting that 90 factor. Wherever that smallest difference is, that's how we would ultimately calculate the reduction. Now, to give you a bit of an example with respect to how a pension is calculated, here I'll introduce you to my friend Jane. Jane is retiring at the age of 65, so this is a normal retirement. And in this scenario, there are no reductions that apply. Jane is going to receive pension based on those 4 years that she spent contributing. Her best 5 earnings in this example are $25,000. So in order to calculate Jane's pension, what we would do here is we would first look at that top line. We would do 2% multiplied by those 4 years that Jane worked, made contributions into OMERS, multiplied by the average of her best 5 earnings being $25,000. Every year between 55 and 65, Jane theoretically would have received $2,000. At 65, that bridge benefit comes off, which means we do need to reduce it by that value. So to calculate that bridge, we would have done the 0.675% multiplied by those 4 years once again, multiplied again by 25,000 because it's smaller than that CPP limit. So there we deduct the 675 from that top line, which gets us to the 1325 that is paid to Jane annually each year by 65 for the remainder of her lifetime. Now, those 4 years of eligible service listed on the screen, those are valuable in terms of helping her potentially reach an unreduced pension. But of course, they're not embedded into the formula because Jane never paid for those 4 years. Another example I have for all of you is Jane again. This time she's retiring with 8 years of credited service. If we look at that top line, we would do the 2% times those 8 years times the $25,000, which gets us $4,000. Then we'll be deducting the bridge because she's retiring at 65, so there is no bridge benefit. And to calculate that there, what we're doing is the 0.675% multiplied by those 8 years, multiplied by 25,000 once again. The value of Jane's bridge is $1,350. So to determine what Jane receives 65 each year for her life, we did line 1 minus line 2. Lifetime pension is $2,650 divided by 12, which of course then gives us her monthly pension payment. Now, maximizing your OMERS pension, this is the opportunity for members to increase that value before they get to their retirement. And there are two different options. So there's always the opportunity for a member to either transfer in service, or what they could choose to do is they could choose to buy back past service. Now, both of these, they're very beneficial because whenever someone's proceeding with a transfer or a buyback, what they're really doing is they're contributing to how much credited service they have, which remember, that's one of the key factors that does drive a member's pension amount. Now, coming into the investments into that additional voluntary contribution program, for the sake of time this evening, I don't have time to specifically go through the investment portfolio, but there is an opportunity for members to potentially invest some of their personal funds into the OMERS fund and then have those funds receive the same rate of return. The functionality of this additional voluntary contribution program is very similar to an RSP, and there are some key differences that, of course, I will discuss. But just for reference, this is a program that OMERS would have introduced back in 2011. And it was done in response to our members wanting the opportunity to invest their personal funds and to have it grow based on the OMERS return each and every year. It is a completely optional program, and it is exclusively available to OMERS members, but it would allow a member to earn that same return that the OMERS fund receives each year. This program, it is recognized for having very low fees and expenses. It's because we do operate on a cost recovery basis, so there are no profit margins built into these fees. And it is an investment that is most suited for those who have a mid to long investment horizon and for those comfortable with moderate risk. And then last but not least, survivor benefits. Now, survivor benefits are a unique feature of one of the OMERS plan, as well as defined benefit pension plans all across Ontario. And it's because we are legislated to pay pensions based on a legal order of return. Now, this legal order that I'm about to show you, this is pension legislation in Ontario, and it does state that we must always pay out pensions based on what you are currently seeing. First off is always a member's eligible spouse. Second are eligible dependent children. Third is a member's designated beneficiary. And then fourth, we have listed as the estate. Now, this is another built-in benefit into the OMERS plan. And what it means is if a member were to pass away, we immediately begin to work through this order to determine who's entitled to receive a pension. The pension is deemed to be a family asset. So in the event of a member's passing and there is a spouse is automatically the first party. They would collect 66% and 2/3 paid to them for their lifetime. Let's say eligible dependent children also exist. Then on top of that spousal pension that the spouse receives, they would also be collecting an additional 10% top up. And that's for each eligible child that exists up to a maximum of 100% of the benefit that the OMERS member themselves would have earned. But let's say there is no spouse and there are only dependent children, then those children too are entitled to a child's pension. And that's equal to the 66% and 2/3 up until these children are deemed to be no longer dependents. And then third and fourth is where we get to the beneficiary and estate. Beneficiary and estate, they will receive payments if there is no spouse, if there are no dependent children, and if there's money left to be paid, meaning once we get here, we're no longer doing 66% and 2/3 for their lifetime. We're really concerned with is a residual refund. So we'll take a look at what did the member contribute plus interest versus pension collected to date. The idea is if the member received more than their contributions, then there's nothing left to be paid in that scenario. But of course, if there is that difference, then that is paid lump sum to the member's beneficiary on record, and it's paid less withholding taxes. Now, when it comes to the OMERS pension plan, lots of information to be aware of. If you are interested in learning more, we have a really great information available on the OMERS website. Specifically, there's a member handbook, which would explain everything I covered this evening, but with a bit more detail. So I would encourage you if you're considering the participation in the OMERS plan. But thank you all so much for your time this evening. And I think that we can proceed to some questions if you have any before we wrap it up.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions? A lot of information there in a short amount of time, so a lot of stuff to digest. No questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for providing that information, and certainly if there's interest, we'll follow up with you at a future time. So again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Very good. Thank you. All right, moving on, the next delegation, no stranger here, is Wendy Hoffmeyer, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the breakfast community cupboard program at Mitchell High School. So when you get up here, Wendy, you'll have to push the button and get the red light on. So there
I
you
wrote
go.
a slideshow. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Becky can probably run that for you.
It's not very long. A secretary trying to run a slideshow. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, and members of West Perth community. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here on behalf of Mitchell District High School to share the work we are doing to support some of our most vulnerable students and to ask for your partnership in strengthening that support. At MDHS, we operate a food, clothing, and personal hygiene program that provides essential items to students who are experiencing insecurity in their daily lives. This program is not simply an extra, it has become a lifeline for many young people in our community. Food insecurity is a reality for more students than many expect. Some arrive at school without breakfast, without anything packed for lunch. When students are hungry, it affects everything, their ability to learn, their emotional well-being, and their sense of belonging. Our program provides healthy snacks, simple meals, and emergency food support so that no student has to go through a school day without nourishment. In addition to food available at school, we also have been able to provide grocery gift cards to various families who need help to keep food on their tables at home. Clothing insecurity is equally challenging. We have students who lack appropriate seasonal clothing, footwear, and basic necessities like socks, gloves, or winter coats. In a small community, many young people quietly carry these struggles, often trying not to draw attention to themselves. Having access to clean, well-fitting, weather-appropriate clothing gives them the confidence, dignity, and the ability to participate fully in school life. Personal hygiene items, things that most of us take for granted, are also out of reach of many of these families. Deodorant, shampoo, toothpaste, menstrual products. These are simple items, yet their absence can lead to embarrassment, isolation, and absenteeism. When students cannot take care of themselves physically, it affects their mental and their engagement in school. Our program works hard to keep these items available, and on average, we're spending approximately $750 every 3 weeks to supply students with food and personal hygiene products alone. We have seen firsthand how meeting these basic needs changes lives. Students who once hesitated coming to school now attend regularly. Others who felt disconnected and ashamed now feel supported and cared for. This program is helping to build a stronger, healthier community, but demand continues to grow and our resources are stretched thin. I also want to take a moment to recognize and sincerely thank the municipality of West Perth for your generous monetary support over the last 2 years. Your contributions have directly helped us provide food, clothing, and hygiene items, and those essential gift cards to students and families who need them the most. The impact of the support has been significant, and we are deeply grateful for the commitment you have already shown to the well-being of our students. That continued need is why I'm here today. We are asking the municipality of West Perth to consider providing a monetary contribution again this year to help sustain and expand our MDHS food, clothing, and hygiene support program. Your ongoing support helps to keep our shelves stocked, purchase necessary items throughout the year, and respond quickly when the need arises. More importantly, It would show our young people that their community stands with them, not once, but consistently. Investing in this program is an investment in the youth of West Perth, our future workforce, our future leaders, and our future strength of this community. When students have their basic needs met, they succeed. And when they succeed, our entire community benefits. Thank you again for your time, your past generosity, and your continued consideration. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I hope you will join us in ensuring every student in West Perth can learn with dignity, confidence, and full opportunity.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Questions for Wendy on this program? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yep. Through you, Mayor McKenzie, thanks Wendy for your presentation. What was the dollar figure per week that you were spending? It was in the middle of your presentation.
We spend $750 every 3 weeks between food, clothing, and personal hygiene items.
Okay, and how many weeks during the year? Is it the full 52 or?
No, it would be September to December. Then we have the 2 weeks off of Christmas, and then again January till June. But we do try to supply quite a few families with substantial gift cards around the Christmas time just to get through their meals.
So it'd be about 39, 40 weeks. Okay. Nate, I don't know if this is a question for you, Wendy, or staff as a follow-up. What has been the previous amounts that West Perth has contributed to this program in the recent past?
2 years ago was 2,500 and last year was 5,000.
Thank you.
Other questions? Don't see any hands going up. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, everyone.
So coming out of that, we do have a recommendation. We'll deal with that one right now, I guess. The recommendation that the staff have put together for this, you may want to wait just a second, Wendy, I guess. That the municipality of West Perth include the request for funding in the amount of 5,000 for the Breakfast Community Cupboard Program at Mitchell District High School in the 2026 budget. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Harold, Councillor Foster, discussion? All those in favor? Discussion, question? Andrew, go ahead.
I didn't catch the total number that they're spending each year. My point is basically this, as far as I'm concerned, doing something with food security in Perth County is an incredibly, possibly the most important issue, especially seeing as they already have a distribution means, and the people that need it well identified. If it were up to me, I'd attempt to pass a motion to fund the whole thing directly rather than leaving them with any sort of funding shortfall whatsoever. But if 5,000 is the number that staff feels is a good number for now, then I'll certainly vote in favor of that as well. But
Okay, well, that's the number that we have in front of us. I don't see anybody else's hand going up here, so I think that's the number we'll stick with, if that's okay. We don't have a mover and seconder. I do have a mover and seconder. Okay, yep, sorry. Oh, we're ready to take the vote, and then Andrew had a question. Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Opposed, if any? That is carried. So thank you, Wendy. All right, moving on then, gets into the planning part of our evening. And the first item is a zoning amendment for 34 Clayton Street. And we have John Bice, the planner from the county, to walk us through this one, probably known as the Vanasse zoning. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and council. So before you here is a zoning bylaw amendment ZN 9-2025. The owners are John and Nancy Vanasse. And the application or the location of the property is 34 Clayton Street on the Red Star there. Okay, so the application proposes to rezone the entirety of the subject lands in the blue box there from the R19 zone to the R317, and that's to permit the existing and the proposed single detached dwellings. The site-specific R317 zone will also permit a maximum lot coverage of 45% for single detached dwellings and 50% for semis, which is to be consistent with the zoning provisions for lots in the subdivision to the south, as you can see on the screen there. So the applicants are proposing single detached dwellings on the lots created by these consent applications before you. The applicants have requested that a holding provision be applied to the southern portion in the red box there. And those are for the lands that were created by consent application B28-25. And this would be as a placeholder that would be lifted once these lands are able to be further subdivided through the completion of the construction of Aaron Street, as you can see proposed on the west side. So the subject lands are designated neighborhood in the Perth County official plan. This designation permits single detached dwellings. So the site-specific requests specifically here to increase the maximum lot coverage for both singles and semis to 45 and 50% respectively is to maintain consistency essentially with the zoning provisions to the south, and planning staff are happy with that request. So the applicants request to place a holding provision on the southern portion of the lands created by B28-25, prohibiting development until the hold is lifted is not considered appropriate at this time. Staff have identified to the applicants that the holding provision needs to encompass the entirety of the lands created by B28-25, which would be the entirety of the yellow parcel, as you see on the slides. Staff are therefore recommending that this modification apply to the application. And this is to ensure that the property that was created by B28-25 is further developed in an orderly manner that aligns with the timely establishment of the municipal infrastructure, and in this case being the construction of Aaron Street. So the Perth County official plan outlines in section 6.4.1A that holding zones may be incorporated in order to achieve orderly development. And that's important because that's essentially what we're recommending here. So section 6.41B provides that a municipality may place a holding provision on the zone that prohibits development from occurring until certain conditions have been met. So in this case, if the hold were to only apply to the southern portion, then the applicants could in theory establish a single detached dwelling at the front portion, the northern section of that lot, and utilize the parcel as an estate lot. Having the southern portion would be under the hold as the rear yard with no real reason to lift the hold and subdivide the lot. So the intent of creating such a large parcel through B28-25 was always to do so with the guarantee that the applicant would further subdivide the parcel once Aaron Street was constructed, guarantee being the buzzword there. So staff recommending the holding provision applied to the entirety of the lands created by B28-25 is to satisfy the intent of that B28-25 consent. So notice of the application was provided on November 7th. No comments were received from members of the public. Staff recommend that West Perth Council approve ZN 9-2025 as modified by staff. I can take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, just hold on to that thought for a minute. We're going to take a step back. I was getting a little anxious to get into this. So first thing, we have to call a public meeting, and we're going to call it. We started, I think, about 7:45. So we need I guess we don't need a motion. I can just declare that we started it. So I'm going to ask Clerk Hudson the purpose of it, and then we'll get into John's explanation, which he's already done. So go ahead.
Great, thank you. And through the chair, the purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to bylaw 100/1998, being the West Perth zoning bylaw, affecting the properties known as 34 Clayton Street, 34 Nelson Street, and 3878 Road 179. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decisions made by council, we'd ask that you provide your name, mailing address, and email to clerk@westperth.com. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
Okay, as was stated, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Zelenka Priamo on behalf of 789274 Ontario Inc. And John has already explained what is going on here. So the formal part of this whole process, I don't know if the applicant has or the agent has anything further to we're online. Oh, no, he's right here in person. Wow, 3D. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good evening. Good evening, council. I have a brief presentation. Oh, thank you, Becky. Okay, so like I said, my name is Connor Wright. I'm a registered professional planner with Zelenka Priamo, planning consultant for Bob Scott on this item. So as identified by Mr. Beister, a modification was made from our requested zoning. And I just want to provide some background as to why we requested it, that design that way. And ultimately, I would like to request to council that the zoning is adopted in our originally requested format. The differences are fairly minor, but I think quite important. So John already described the location of the property. You'll recall that these severances, as shown here, were approved by council just a few months ago and are to be finalized pending completion of both this rezoning and a couple other cleanup conditions. And so this is the ultimate intent for the block. You can see the west parcel will be further subdivided into 2 additional parcels fronting to Wren Street. And so we actually applied for these 2 severances with the original batch of the applications, but we were refused by staff because the Wren Street is not completed, so they considered these applications to be premature. And so that's why we have that parcel that's somewhat unusually shaped. We're waiting for a Wren Street to be completed, and then we'll do these 2 additional lots by consent. So John already went over this. This is just the zoning for the block. So the principle of what we're proposing here is to just rezone the remaining portion of the site, R317, to match up with the rest of the block. And so this slide shows kind of the boundary for what we propose for the hold provision. And so the logic here is that the lots that are fronting Clayton Street and Nelson Street, they do not need a hold provision. They can be developed effectively right after this zoning is finalized and the lots are registered. And so we put the hold on the red, and I'll skip ahead to another slide here. So we put the hold on 29 and 31 because lot 40 is effectively, it's good to go. It can be developed with a house. We don't need to have the hold provision on lot 40 Clayton Street. So this is just showing kind of the differences in summation between our proposed hold provision on the left and the staff proposed hold provision on the right. And so, like I said, lot 40 Clayton is effectively good to go. There's no reason, in my opinion, to restrict development on this lot until a Wren Street is completed and or those other lots are created. It's good to go now, and those lots will happen at a later date. And so the difference in the hold provision, it might seem quite minor, but it would probably lead to roughly a year delay in the delivery of that house on 40 Clayton. And that's because per the staff's proposal, we would need to build a Wren Street, do the 2 consent applications, and then lift the hold provision, and then clear the remaining consent conditions, which again, I think would probably realistically take a year. And so our approach here allows for 40 Clayton to be developed now, and it's still, and this is important, it still ensures that these two lots cannot be used for an estate lot because the H provision would not allow for those to be used for any use, including a backyard, certainly not any kind of development on that red portion. And secondly, the future severances will happen because that's not going to be productive land. So the clear incentive would be to develop it. There's still protections, there's still the H provision. And there's additionally a development agreement that we have to go into because of the consent conditions. So there will be a clause in there that says that this severance must happen. And finally, again, I think it's important to point out that we did submit those two consent applications. That's clearly our intent to develop in that manner. And so finally, just to make it clear, there's no intent to use lots 40, 31, and 29 as one single lot. I'm not sure where that idea came from, but that can be restricted via this hold provision and development agreement without impacting 40 Clayton Street, importantly. So again, in summary, this is the change we're asking for. We're in agreement with all other aspects of the rezoning to R317, and we're simply requesting that the hold provision not cover 40 Clayton Street and only cover 31 and 29 Wren Street. So the left diagram shown here. And again, this will effectively just allow us to do 40 Clayton Street about a year sooner than otherwise. It bears no negative impacts or repercussions, in my opinion. And to me, that's good planning. So just to be to conclude here, the change, to be specific, is that council would approve the zoning with the one modification that the provision does not cover 40 Clayton Street on Schedule A. And so with that, I'll thank you and all in attendance here for their time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Connor. So at this time, I would ask if there is anybody present that wishes to speak in support of this application. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Any general comments or questions from council on this particular application? Okay,
Mayor McKenzie.
sorry,
I was
yeah.
wondering- So I was just wondering, would it be technically possible to have a hold provision on half of a lot like that? So I was wondering if we could have
Yeah,
Perth
yeah.
County Planning
John,
answer that.
come ahead, John.
So through the mayor, yeah, that's possible.
Any other questions? Alex, go ahead.
If you were to use a development agreement instead of a hold provision, then would it just prevent final occupancy until a further severance? Or where would it move that line to? I'm not sure who this question's for, if that's for John or if it's for the planner.
We'll let John. Okay, go ahead. They're passing the buck here. Go ahead, Dan.
I'm actually going to ask you to repeat that question. Sorry.
So if we went to the position of Palenco Planning, I'm going to say it wrong and I'm going to be confident in it, that we go to the reduced hold provision, where in a development agreement, where would you make sure that they sever those opposed to a hold provision over the whole lot as he's proposed?
I think largely that's the concern that John is pointing out to you, that if the hold is just on those portions, then they necessarily don't ever have to develop on those portions. And then you could see lot 40 be developed as an estate lot.
So is it the position of staff that you can't do that through the development agreement?
Force them to develop.
To develop it further with
Right.
a hold provision of a planning?
We can't force them to develop if they don't want to develop.
Thank you.
Other questions? No? Okay. Then we shall move on if there's no other questions. The second part of our public meeting is a bylaw amendment application submitted by Zelenko Priamo on behalf of Ruth Clark. And I'll now call upon Haley Hellman, planner for the county of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So, Haley, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I'll be presenting zoning application Z10-25 for lands located at 34 Nelson Street in the municipality of West Perth. Thank you. The subject application for zone change has been received to satisfy a condition of consent B34-25 and proposes to rezone the subject lands from future development zone to future development zone with a special holding provision. The subject lands currently contain an existing single detached dwelling and 2 accessory structures, all of which will remain. No new development is proposed as part of this application. The subject lands are located within the Mitchell Ward, which is designated neighborhood and the primary focus of growth and development in West Perth. The proposed zoning amendment from future development zone to a future development zone with a special holding provision implements preparations for the lands for future comprehensively planned residential development. The application does not propose any new construction at this time and will recognize the existing single detached dwelling and 2 accessory structures that are to remain. The intent of the special holding provision ensures that any future development makes efficient use of the land and existing infrastructure. Prior to the removal of the holding, the landowner must provide a detailed development plan demonstrating the optimization of land and services. This requirement aligns with the objectives of the PPS and the county official plan. Staff are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, conforms with the county official plan, and maintains the intent of the municipality of West Perth zoning bylaw. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Haley. At this time, I'll ask if the agent has anything further to add. Connor, we're good? Okay. Is there anybody present wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application? All right, finally, any general comments or questions from council on this application? Okay, I don't see any hands going up, so thank you, Haley. We'll move on then. The third one of the night is zoning bylaw amendment Z11, 2025. And this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Thomas Rutherford and Josie Melhazen. Did I do that right, Ken? Melhausen? Okay, I was close. So now I'll call upon John Vice Planner for the County of Perth to review the application and present any correspondence received. John?
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So this zoning bylaw amendment is ZN 11-2025, and it's located at 3878 Road 179, West Perth. It's just south of Dublin there at the Red Star. So the application is proposing to rezone the subject lands from the agricultural zone and the special agricultural zone A2 to special agricultural zone A-61. And this is to facilitate the replacement of an existing non-habitable dwelling. So for council's information, a portion of the subject property is zoned A2, which prohibits residential dwellings. This special agricultural zoning was previously established to protect the aggregate resource for future extraction purposes. Further to this, the applicant is requesting to reduce a minimum distance MDS 1 setback requirement from a neighboring livestock facility from 269 meters to 168 meters for the proposed residential dwelling. For council's information, there is an existing residential dwelling in the general vicinity of where the proposed dwelling will be constructed. However, the dwelling is no longer habitable and therefore no longer has legal nonconforming status. You can see in the photo right there the dwelling to be replaced. So the subject lands are designated agriculture in the Perth County official plan. Subject lands are not identified as being within either a primary or secondary aggregate resource as per the new Perth County Official Plan Appendix 1. A single detached dwelling is permitted as an accessory to an established agricultural use in the agricultural designation. So the applicants have submitted an aggregate impact assessment as part of their application to determine if the replacement dwelling will or will not hinder the aggregate resource from future extraction. As you can see here on the image, the zoning that the A2 vein goes through, you can kind of see the transparency level. It encompasses the existing non-habitable dwelling, and you'll see in a further slide the replacement dwelling as well. So the aggregate impact assessment was completed by Grid Engineering and has identified that the resource that exists on the property is considered to be of tertiary significance and may lack the significant quantities of granular commercially valuable materials. Grit identified that the property is uneconomically viable for aggregate extraction, and therefore the establishment of a residential dwelling will not compromise future extraction of a viable resource. So the applicants have also submitted MDS1 calculations for the beef cattle livestock operation across the road to reduce the MDS1 setback for the new replacement dwelling there. So the neighboring livestock facility is for beef cattle with capacity of 169 head, about 85 nutrient units, generating a 269 meter setback requirement from adjacent dwellings. Just for context here, if the new dwelling is established in compliance with MDS1 setback requirements of 269 meters, the dwelling would be outside of the already established farm building cluster, as you can see through the transparency of this image on the screen. And instead, it would have to be located in already cultivated field. So staff are satisfied that the location of the proposed dwelling is appropriate. It will not negatively impact the ability of the neighboring livestock facility to continue its current viable operation. Public meeting. So no comments were received from members of the public, and the application was sent out in accordance with the Planning Act. I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you, John. I don't believe we have the applicant here, do we? But Ken, do you have anything further to add? No? Fair enough. No, that's good explanation. Very good. Thanks, Ken. So again, at this time, I'll ask if there's anybody present wishing to speak in support of the application. Is there anyone present in opposition to this application? Okay, any general comments or questions from council? Councilor Fournier.
Through your worship and possibly with planning staff's help, I can't recall the details of it. It was several years ago now, but we turned down an application for a development in Fullerton because it would have been within the MDS of a potential calf barn. And this one is going to be 101 meters inside the envelope of an operating cow barn. And again, as I say, I can't quite recall the details of that case, but I recall shutting down an application and it was significantly less inside the MDS than 101 meters in that case. Do you recall the details of that at all? I could look it up in previous agendas, but it would take me simply ages to find.
Through the mayor, I'm not familiar with, likely wasn't one of my applications, so I'm not familiar, unfortunately.
I'm assuming you're referring to the one just on the outskirts of Fullerton Village? Yeah. Yeah. And they were too close to the agricultural operation across the road, if I remember right. And there was also a manure tank there as well. So I think that was what had the influence on that decision. So, okay. Any other questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
Okay, just my first question, the property owner that has the beef farm, they were notified of this application?
So through the mayor, the application was circulated to everyone who had a property within James, can you 120 meters?
Through the chair, that's correct.
120 meters of the property. So they would have been notified, being located directly across the road.
And question the staff, no, there was no response received from that property owner to this application?
Through the mayor, there's none to my knowledge.
Through the chair, nothing's been received by West Perth staff here.
Follow-up question through you, Mr. Mayor. So, question for planning. So what's the consequence to that beef? What's the consequence to that livestock operation across the road? Should this application be accepted? What's the consequence to the livestock operation, whether it's continues as a beef farm or some other form of livestock operation?
So through the mayor, the livestock operation is able to continue operating at its current capacity. Any sort of additions that would need to be, or any sort of expansion that would go on would be capped in that direction. It would also be capped by the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, as the majority, if not the entirety of that barn is located within the regulated portion of the Cook Drain. Based on my conversation with the building department, the livestock operation could expand by an amount of 118 short keepers without reaching the new established MDS 1 setback of 169 meters. Anything greater, they would be looking for an MDS 2 reduction, or in turn, they could expand to the north, or they could also expand to the northeast. Does that answer your question?
Okay, and so an expansion to the north or northeast, how far away on that lot from where the existing beef facility is now, like how far to the north and east would they have to locate? It's hard to see from the picture. It looks like they would have to locate that into cultivated land. So I'm just wondering how far north and east would they have to go?
Yeah, so through the mayor, it is a bit of a hypothetical question. It would have to depend on the number of livestock that they increase by. But, if they're going for a larger number, then they would have to, locate, further and further back. If they're going for a shorter number, then it might depend on, it all depends on what they're proposing.
Maybe I'll redirect the question in this sense then, with respect to UTRs or the Conservation Authority Section 28 requirement. What would that requirement be, regardless of sizing and regardless of the position of the house that's proposed in this application? How far away would they have to get out of the, I'll call it the exclusion zone, to satisfy a Conservation Authority requirement?
So through the mayor, the best way for me to answer that is I would have to speak to the Conservation Authority. It depends on the catchment area and how large the flood elevation limit would be. I'm not sure what of significance of the Cook Drain is in terms of capacity, in terms of larger catchment area or smaller. So just to answer truthfully, I would have to look into it.
I guess the reasoning behind my questions is I'm trying to understand the consequence of that property being sterilized. I'll call it sterilized against further livestock use other than the expansions that you mentioned earlier, John, that are allowed. As you explain. Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Counselor Vink.
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, to the MDS discussion that we're having, if the applicant were to instead build on the existing dwelling, that would actually be even closer and wouldn't need any amendments, that they could get a building a permit on top of the existing dwelling that is there now today without any amendments, and then actually is closer in MDS distance.
So if you don't mind, through the mayor, they would need an expansion to, or essentially it's lost its legal non-conforming status because it's gone uninhabitable. So it would be a new MDS reduction that would be closer and therefore would negatively impact or would impact the neighboring livestock more if they were to repurpose because it's lost its legal non-conforming status. They are proposing new further away, as you can see on the slide there, albeit not terribly far away. But there could be two options for them. One, build new, you still need an MDS reduction, or two, repurpose the old, but you need to get that into a habitable stance or state, I mean, and you still need a variance to reduce MDS for that because it's no longer legal non-conforming. So both variances would be needed. The secondary option, it gets them a little bit further away from the livestock than the other one.
Counselor Fournier again.
Through your worship, is there any way for it to regain legal non-conforming, or is that a once you're out, you're out?
Any other questions? Last call. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, through you, once again, Mayor McKenzie, is there any possible way that the property owner that operates the livestock operation, is there any possible way that they would provide some kind of documentation, a letter that would sign off on the reduced MDS? Like, I realize they're not here at the meeting. They haven't replied according to the clerk, but there's just something here that just based on previous situations, which of course are not a precedent, we've discussed at the Committee of Adjustment. There's just something missing here for me. Like, I understand what the applicant's trying to do, and I understand that if you were to fully enforce the MDS, it would put the house out in the middle of the field, which is not desirable from a land use perspective. But it's at odds, putting the house at a shorter MDS is at odds with the potential use of the livestock facility. So that's where I'm struggling with this, and the fact that the livestock facility owner hasn't replied just leaves me hanging, for lack of a better explanation.
So through the mayor, may I call upon Mr. Roney to see if they've had discussions?
Yeah, I'm looking for some clarity here, and I'm struggling to find it.
Have you had discussions with the livestock operation across the street?
Yes,
Can you explain those discussions to council?
I explained what we're trying to do, and I said they had no problem with it, so,
Thank you.
okay. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other final questions? Okay, thank you, John. So this wraps up the public part of our meeting. I would like to thank everybody for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendments, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. We'll now close this public meeting at 8:17. So coming out of that, we do have some recommendations here. The first recommendation that we have is with regards to Z9, 2025, and that is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve zoning 9, 2025 as modified by staff affecting lands legally described as park lot 47, plan 339, registered plan 44R 6107, Mitchell in the municipality of West Perth. Do we have a mover and seconder for that?
Mayor McKenzie?
Yeah.
I was wondering, before we have a mover and a seconder, would it be okay if I spoke for a second to talk to it?
Sure.
I think it's important that we try to facilitate development of these lands rather than putting in roadblocks to the development. So I think I'd like to see just a holding provision on the southern half of the lands of that part, not the entire thing myself. So I think it's important to keep the development moving and not put roadblocks in its place.
Okay. Other comments? Councillor Duck?
Yeah, I think what Nick said is pretty important, and if he's making that an amendment, I'd certainly second it.
Okay, James, I'm gonna lean on you here a little bit.
Through the chair on this one, I'm actually gonna ask the counselor to restate their amendment. It's not clear to me.
Well, then, if I may, I'll just make a motion then, because we haven't had a motion yet. Okay, if you give me a spot, then I will be there in a second. That the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve ZN 9, 2025, affected lands legally described as a park lot 47, plan 339, RP 44R 6107, Mitchell, Municipality of West Perth.
Isn't that what I read?
No,
Oh,
I took out the as amended by staff portion.
okay. All right, okay.
Yep.
Yep, no, good, good. That's not easy to read, is it, Nicola?
No.
Okay, James?
Through the chair, I might look to the planner, but I'm not clear on what it is that you are proposing, counselor. I'm sorry. You've recommended we approve the zoning bylaw amendment, which is what the mayor just read. I recognize you removed the wordings as modified by staff. But I guess I just need to be clear, I think at this time, what it is you're asking council to do.
So through the mayor, you could change it to as applied for, perhaps.
It's good for me.
So maybe just so everybody's on the same page, we'll read the recommendation once more with the latest update, okay?
That the Council of the Municipality of West Perth approve ZN 9, 2025 as applied for by the applicant affecting lands legally described as park lot 47, plan 339, RP 44R 6107 Mitchell in the municipality of West Perth.
Okay, thank you. And we don't have a mover or seconder on that yet, do we?
I'll move that, Mayor McKenzie.
Councilor Duck indicated they would second.
Oh, okay, all right. So I'll take Councillor Venk as moving it and Councillor Duck as seconding it. Okay, any further discussion on that? Deputy Mayor?
Okay, through you, Mayor McKenzie, you'll have to ask the planning staff to explain explain the difference between what was presented to council as a recommendation by staff and how that differs from Councillor Vink's motion.
Through you, Mayor. So essentially, the recommendation from staff is that the hold applies to the entirety of the lands severed through B 28-25. And that's to essentially ensure orderly development until essentially Aaron Street is constructed. It's needed because it's a guarantee. Without it, there's not a guarantee. So there's no guarantee that wording be established through a development agreement. There can be words exchanged that it will be, but the hold is a guarantee that it doesn't get developed as an estate lot. It's in the public interest to plan in an orderly fashion. So if municipal infrastructure isn't there, we wait for it. And sometimes that causes delays. But it's staff's recommendation at this point that the hold applies to the entirety of that parcel. Connor's recommendation is that the hold applies only to the southern portion. And that's essentially to allow Mr. Scott to build a single on the fronting, which would be Clayton Street, and not delay him. And unfortunately, staff's recommendation would delay him. But we believe it's best to have that guarantee in place, even if it causes a delay. Is that, I can explain in a different way or something else, but I'll turn it over to you.
Just maybe a question for Connor. Do you know what street is planning on going in, or where the building would be first?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, could I ask you to clarify the
Well,
question?
we've got Clayton and Aaron as the two streets. So what is the objective, I guess, of the developer? Where would he go first? Off
Well,
which street?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So like in terms of the road, there's kind of two separate things going on here. So there's a legal frontage on Clayton Street. And I think you're referring to improvements to that road, which are anticipated, I think, this spring. So a Wren Street would also be constructed. There's a bit of a different scenario because it's not existing whatsoever. It would be entirely constructed, probably roughly at the same time. But the difference is that lots can legally front onto Clayton in its current form. It doesn't need to be improved in order for a lot to be legally created on Clayton Street.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll go back to the motion. It was duly moved and seconded. I think we've had the discussion. I don't think there's any more questions. So all those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? So that is carried. Okay, thank you. The next one then is a recommendation with regards to the Clark property. And that is that the municipality of West Perth approve zoning 10/2025 affecting lands described as Park Lot 34, Plan 339, Parts 2 and 3, Registered Plan 44R 2725, Mitchell in the municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder of that, Councillor Foster, and a seconder, Councillor, I'll take Councillor Fultz this time. Discussion or questions? Okay, no questions or discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, then that is carried. And the next one is zoning bylaw 11 that approve zoning 11/2025 affecting lands legally described as Lot 11, Concession 2 in the Hibbert Ward in the municipality of West Perth. And a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Vink. Discussion, questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie, through you. My comment is that I will support this motion only based on the information that the livestock facility owner across the road has not filed an objection. And secondly, that Mr. Roney has stated that he's had a discussion with that property owner and there appears to be no objection. It appears to be a mutual agreement between neighbors. So I'm not going to stand in the way of that. Regardless of my concerns about the future sterilization of that property, it sounds like there's the Conservation Authority stipulations would probably take precedence over that anyway. The difference between this application and the application that Councillor Fournier was referring to, in my mind, is that the Fullerton Township application, there was no mutual agreement between the applicant for the house and the property owner of the existing farm livestock facility. And to me, that's the difference. So for those reasons stated, I will be supporting this application based on what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing so far is that two neighbors have a mutual agreement that they're willing to work together. Thank you.
Okay, the only thing I could add to this whole discussion, that if Mr. Roney said he's talked to the neighbor and has an agreement that they're not have a problem, it's as good as gold in my books. This goes from here and it gets circulated again, like it gets, the neighbors will know what has happened and there's an opportunity again, right?
Through the chair, notice of decision is circulated to required agencies. I'm spitballing off the top of my head here, but legislation dictates that you must notify properties within 120 meters, property owners within 120 meters of the application and of the public meeting. If they do not request further notification of the decision, it would not be mailed a copy of the decision. The copy is only then sent to prescribed agencies of the notice of decision. So yes, you are absolutely correct. There is further notification, but if a person's not requested to receive that, they would not by right receive that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's been duly moved and seconded. No further discussion, I don't believe. So all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item then is to deal with K&D Rose Construction. And Dan, I guess you're updating us on this one, are you? There's a report. And Dean has declared a conflict, so he's leaving.
I think John would still come present his report. There's-
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess John's got a report. Yes, sorry. Yes, John. Didn't mean to throw you under the bus, John.
It's all good. So thank you, Mayor and Council. For you here is the third draft plan of condominium extension request for K&D Rose's condominium development located at 230 Ontario Road in Mitchell, just south of the Tim Hortons there. So just to refresh council's memory, this draft plan of vacant land condominium encompasses an area of 1.36 hectares and proposes 7 buildings with a total of 28 townhouse dwelling units and common element blocks. Development is located towards the northern section of the property and it does not encroach into the floodplain hazard that is Whirl Creek. This is just a kind of a timeline of events. So draft plan was approved for 5 years on May 16th, 2019. On July 4th, 2024, Perth County Council approved a 1-year draft plan extension. And then on July 3rd, 2025 of this year, County Council approved a second draft plan extension until the end of the year, which is December 23rd, 2025. And then October 23rd, so just over a month ago, the third extension was applied for, and K&D Rose's, the applicants have requested a 90-day extension here. So it's important to identify the work that's continued when we look at extension requests. And there has not been any additional work completed towards finalizing the draft plan conditions from July 2025 until November 2025. I do want to note, and I think Dan's going to touch upon this in a minute, but after the planning department submitted this report for the agenda, to be added to the agenda, that is, the applicant sent in the engineer's cost estimate for 100% of the cost to build the common element items. So this came in maybe Wednesday or Thursday of last week. And the applicants have cited personal reasons as the explanation for the lack of progress towards the draft plan conditions. So this is an image on July 2nd, 2024. This is an image on June 12th, 2025. See the curbs are in. And then on December 1st, 2025, there's been no additional works on the site. So staff are of the opinion that based on the age of the original subdivision or condominium approval, the limited work being completed on site after the applicants received their 1-year extension and their 5 to 6 month extension, and the request being the third of its nature, that the request cannot be supported. Planning staff recommend that West Perth Council recommend to Perth County Council that a 90-day extension of draft plan approval be denied. I can take any questions.
Okay, thanks, John. You have some further information?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think, it's important to note that John is not incorrect here. What I will add though is that as John did note, there has been some development here on the application in the last possible hour of it. And I think at this point, I would see it being prudent for council to approve the recommendation for a 3-month extension. But that's really all I could add, is there has been progress. It's very, very close now. But again, John is right in his analysis. This has been since 2019.
Discussion, Councillor O'Donnell?
Through the mayor, I guess my question would be, what would be the next plan if we did deny it and say 5 years went by and they didn't reapply?
I guess, John, you can probably field that as well as anybody, eh?
So through the mayor, it's essentially up to the applicants in their time frame. So if they don't reapply, then they don't reapply and nothing happens.
Somebody else had a question over here? Yeah, Councillor Phelps.
So in the event they don't reapply, the step is they have to sell that to have someone else do it, or they start all over the application process, or what's the process?
So through the mayor, it's a brand new draft plan subdivision, brand new draft condo. It's one or the other, essentially. It's exactly that. It's one or the other. Or they sell it. It's up to them at that point. The ball's in their court.
I would just add that if the extension is granted, I will disclose there's no guarantee that you'll see the condos either.
I guess the only comment that I would make, and I maybe shouldn't even be making a comment, but I think as Dan has said, they're so very close to having it completed. And a 90-day extension is still less than what they originally asked for at the last time, and we shortened it up to, was it 6 months, John?
Through the mayor, yeah, it was like 5.5.
They had asked for a year, I believe, by then, and we gave them 6 months. So we're, if council looks, positive on this and grants a 90-day extension, it's still less than what they originally had asked for. But I think on that note, it should, if you do decide to go this route, that you make it perfectly clear and whether they come in and talk to Dan in the office, but this is it. There would be no further extensions, and it would default, wouldn't it? So that's all I would make a comment on, I think, at this time. So
yeah, they're not asking for a year or 6 months. They're asking for 90 days. They've been in it this long, and so have we. We might as well in my mind, one last kick at the cat, 90 days, and see if they can do something with it. I'd be in favor of trying that.
Anybody else? Counselor Phelps?
I concur with Steve on that and, you know, they, as you say, they're so close, but we're also heading into year 8, so it's so far away. So, but you know, hopefully it's a tough time of year for the next 90 days and hopefully we can progress and move forward with it.
Anybody else? Counselor Vink?
Mayor McKenzie, could we just go over what the balance of work is then in the next 90 days after this report was received to see if it's even feasible?
That's a good question, Nicholas. So go ahead, Dan.
We're looking right now to just confirm the security that's required for the remaining common elements as well as the other works on the property. At that point, then securities would need to be ensured that they're paid to move forward, and we would enter into the a new agreement. So it is possible, I think, in 90 days. Sorry, John, I'll check if I think I've got everything.
Okay, anybody else? Counselor O'Donnell?
So after that 90 days with the agreement, what is the next step?
There would be no, sorry. I saw somebody outside. Steve, sorry. Oh, okay. I thought somebody was trying to get in. Sorry. At that point, it would be approved and under the agreement, so they'd be doing work, and as it progresses and gets inspected, there'd be security reductions, and then when it gets certain stage of it, they could start getting building permits, and likewise, next stage, they could get occupancy and so on and so forth.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So I'm looking for a recommendation. We have one here. If you want to go with that, or Steve, you had indicated another that we would grant them a 90-day extension. And Counselor Phelps is going to second that. Okay. Any further discussion or items here? Okay, I'll ask the question then. All those in favor of a 90-day extension? 1, 2, 3. Okay, motion's carried. Thank you. All right, and my note here says jump to, oh, somebody better let Dean in. He's standing outside there. My note says jump to 8.9.1. Is that correct? Counselor Foster?
After we did consent agenda, we didn't do 5.14, the fire update.
Oh, we missed that?
Through the chair, 5.14, the fire update was included as part of the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. It's just separate on our agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so we're jumping to the report 8.9.1.
Yeah, correct. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So we're bringing back a PC Transit report, and we do have a guest here, and I realize there's a couple. Sorry. A couple other guests here as well, but we have Mike Mosley from the city of Stratford here, and he's kind of been around since the I guess the founding father of PC Connect, maybe I'll say. So he can come up later if there's any more questions that council may have. But through the report that was basically as a follow-up presented at the last meeting of council, we've brought forward a bit more information on the current structure of PC Connect, the potential future structure of PC Connect, what it would look like in Mitchell, as well as we've included some more into the costing examples that were explicitly requested from us last time. So I'll note there that we confirmed the taxi is between about a $91 and $106 round trip from Mitchell to Stratford. And then I'll just clarify there that the fare for an adult on PC Connect would be $12. So it'd be $24 for a round trip. At a similar time, we were asked for the operating kind of cost for PC Connect versus Mitchell Transit. So when we did break it down, we were looking at approximately $48 per ride for PC Connect. And then when we broke down a local example for Mitchell Transit, we were looking at approximately $63 per ride as well. So at this time, then staff identified both the OTIF and CT grants that are available potentially there for funding as we move forward. And then we further broke down a bit of the financial modeling and noted that through a staff review of it, with no additional grants beyond the OTIF, as well as with a fare increase from 12 to 15 and a ridership increase of approximately 1.5% annually over what it currently sits at. We think that over the next 10 years that this would stay in a net positive position, and keep reserves in a positive position as well. So I think there's a lot of information there, and I'll stop to see if council has any direct questions we can answer, Mike and myself.
I'm just wondering, would we have Mike come up and add anything more to it at this time? Would that, and then we can open it up for questions. Would that be a good idea? Mike, do you want to come up and elaborate a little bit more if you can? And just stick up here for questions. That's the hot seat.
Told me you wouldn't have to talk.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, just one of many hot seats. Mr. Mayor, council staff, thank you. Just to kind of briefly, my name's Mike Mosley. I'm a manager of transit for the city of Stratford. So I look after the conventional transit, specialized or mobility. And as the CAO mentioned, one of the founding members of what we now brand PC Connect about 6 years ago. I did have other two staff members, one from the county and another one from the city of Stratford, that helped launch this 6 years ago during a pandemic, which was fascinating in itself. Now there's just pretty much just me that's looking after the sustainability of the service. I'll just mention quickly about the funding piece, because I know for the three present partners and hopefully a fourth, that the funding component is important, knowing how difficult our municipal budgets can be. The funding piece, there's the OTIF, which is the Ontario Transit Infrastructure Fund, which actually is what replaced the CT funding back that we got originally to fund the intercommunity bus. They seem to be knocking at my email door constantly. I have a pretty good relationship with the MTO in the province as far as this project goes. There's some projects in the Southwest that have folded because they couldn't sustain it any longer because the CT funding actually stopped March of this year. The OTIF funding is to replace that, although it's structured a little differently. But I keep knocking on the MTO's door as well, saying that, you know what, we're getting close to filing an application. There's some new guidelines for the application. You just can't fund it to fund the service that you presently have. There's quite a bit of criteria to the new funding stream, and that's, adding new partners. Whether it's municipal lower tiers, a social services department, or say the festival in Stratford, partners like that. New and improved service, something that's added differently, or present routes kind of revised or edited. So that's kind of the criteria to the new OTIF. I've kept the MTO up to date with where we're at now. There is a lot of moving parts with this. Of course, but I'm pretty excited to continue further with this project, because transportation in the county has become a lifeline for a lot, whether there's people going for education or for work or for social service programs, whatever that somebody might need. It's a pretty important part of people's day. So the sustainability part of it is at the utmost. And like I said, my relationship with the MTO, they seem pretty excited to see what this application is going to look like once all the pieces of the puzzle get put together. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Questions? I guess the obvious question is, how sure are we on the grant?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing's ever 100%. But they are pretty, like I said, they're knocking at my door all the time looking, hey, have you got the application ready to go yet? So it's kind of a carrot dangle there a little bit. There is one other smaller part, and that's the old CT funding, because there's a few partners that pulled out. Apparently they might have some extra funds laying around that they didn't have to pay out to those that folded from March. So there's a little bit there too, potentially. I'm more inclined to say the OTIF is the way stronger path to go. And like I said, the MTO is pretty excited to see what the application is going to look like. Not that there's a guarantee, but the fact that they keep asking me about it would lead me to believe that they're interested in funding this project in some shape or form.
I guess the other question that I have, and it mentions in the report there, a possibility of a stop in Sebringville, and knowing what's going on with the potential of a subdivision coming on stream there. I guess we would look at that as if there was going to be some more contributions coming in the future, if it was a stop in Sebringville, because they're not West Perth people that are going to be getting on there.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, not that there's been any conversation, the Sebringville piece kind of came up because we'd be going through it to come to Stratford. That was kind of the intention of talking about a Sebringville, but that was just coming from me.
No, it makes sense if when you're going through Sebringville, if there was a need for a stop there, like by all means, I think he would do it, but it does come at a cost. I don't think we're in a position that we're going to offer free rides to other municipalities at this stage of the game. There was another question I had. I'll go with Steve. I've got a question though first.
Based on the past ridership numbers, and you don't necessarily have to have this off the top of your head, but what would Stratford and Listowel and St. Mary's numbers look like compared to West Perth? If we're all paying the same amount towards this operation, are we going to use, I know the options are to use it if you choose to, but are we going to get enough use, or are we going to get equal use out of it compared to what Stratford might, just based on the size of the town and the cities?
Yeah, and through the chair, great question. Back prior to when the rural route was running and then folded in March, it was actually one of the highest ridership out of the three routes in total. It was 700-800, sometimes 900 trips a month, compared to maybe a Route 1 that goes from Listowel to KW was around 400 or 500. The rural route prior to it folding was actually one of the better routes consistently for ridership. Now it did a bigger area than what we're projecting, and we went through Bruner and where else did we go? There was a whole bunch of places. Gads Hill, yeah, Bruner, Milverton, Millbank. We did the whole big circle. So, but I'm pretty sure that the bulk of the ridership was Listowel, Mitchell, coming into Stratford and going back. I believe that's where a good 80% of the ridership in the old rural route came from back before it folded. Like I said, it was 700-800 easily a month. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steve.
And if we were to pull out the Brunner, the Millbank and the Milverton, where would that look? What would that look like?
Through the chair, I would have to go back and crunch those numbers because all the numbers, all the data was kind of in one big data spreadsheet that I got from the service provider. But I could easily break that out, but it'd be safe to say 80% was listable Mitchell into Stratford and back again. And a couple small points in between. We did stop in Sebringville back in the day, but it was maybe one or two a day. It wasn't a lot, but it was someone coming to school in Stratford.
Councillor Vink?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, I was wondering if I could ask CAO Hobson about the financial model that he, just to clarify. So if we contribute $155,000 each year for the next 3 years, and you said that the project can be sustainable with just a small increase in ridership, that means that budget number wouldn't be increasing if ridership is increasing, that we wouldn't need to, over the next 3 years, contribute any additional dollars in the future. And then maybe secondly, at the budget meeting, you discussed some of that might be, depending on how much of the grants come through, be put into a reserve for the future. Could you just highlight that portion of it again?
Yeah, thank you. So on the last paragraph of the last page on the financial section, that I do note based on the model that we looked at, I'll say I looked at, sorry, there was about $4,000 annual increase in that, in the 155. So it'd be about 4 years, everything. And then that was all the other assumptions that I listed earlier. So I think, and I modeled that based on just receiving the OTIF grant, as I think that's probably the recommended, that's likely what would happen if we entered into the partnership. I think there's a good chance as well that we would get OTIF funding. So I think that's securing your ridership though, or your transit system for 10 years, which I think is a pretty good investment at this point. There's a lot at this stage, a lot of ifs and ands still to happen. And I think we talked about it last time and it's noted in here as well. Dillon Consulting is working on something for St. Mary's and North Perth. So that could change just kind of how PC Connect is structured, which could lower your contribution more. So there's certainly been discussion, and maybe to Councillor Harold's point about having that, ensuring that it's equitable, that your cost is equitable for the service you're receiving for your residents. It's just where we are at the stage of the game. There's too many unknowns. I mean, if you wanted to make the decision tonight to just go down to five days instead of 6 days, like that's going to drastically change it. But as a collective group, we felt 6 days was the way to go, not 5 days. So I realize it's early and there's still some unknowns, but I think at this stage, 155 gets you in the door. It gets transit, and then we can figure it out. And that's why we're kind of looking at for a 3-year recommendation as opposed to a 5 or anything else into the partnership. Is like, let's get in there and see what's going to happen. I realize there's risk, so hopefully that answers the question.
Just to pick up on Councillor Harold's comment, was there ever any thought put in, and like we're into this, what we've got is basically equal partnerships, so it's a third. Was there ever any case study done on the percentage of ridership from your area as opposed to a third? Like I'm looking, the usage out of Stratford certainly will be way more than what we would have out of West Perth, I would think. And North Perth would probably be higher than what we are as well. I just throw that out, devil's advocate, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Always tough as far as data goes with transit to figure out who's coming from where and going to where. It's always tough trying to get that data. What I do know is only because dealing with some of the stakeholders that I deal with in Stratford, whether it be social services or housing or Canadian Mental Health Association, they buy lots of passes for their clients that are coming from the county, coming in for services into Stratford. I don't think it's a lot of people in Stratford that are going out. It's more or less people coming in from the surrounding areas for services, or to meet a connection to go to KW for services, or going even to a London, because I have a route that goes to London from Stratford as well. So Stratford could either be people from the county coming in for services or for school or for jobs, or for using Stratford as a connection to go to KW for maybe the same type of thing, or for going to London. It's pretty much from the county into Stratford for the most part.
And another question, I guess, down the road, as our industrial park comes on stream, it wouldn't be that difficult to add an additional stop or two. If it worked out, that employers were coming from Stratford, or I would think more would come from Stratford than would come from Listowel, but it's something that could be tweaked as we go along.
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely. I've pretty much been the one in charge of the service structure that I just hand to the service provider. We've tweaked stops and routes fairly consistently over the last several years. One was I forget the name of St. Mary's that had the plant that moved to London, but there was a lot of London
Campbell's.
That's right. There was a lot that came from London into St. Mary's. And now that's the dynamic of that has changed a bit. So transit, in the transit world, things constantly change to meet the need of the customers that require the service.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duck.
I guess my question would be, is there any benefit to waiting until the consulting review is done? Being as we're going in as equal partners, is there a risk the cost does go up if there is changes in those communities or not? I'm just asking more so than anything. Yeah, I guess that would be my question.
Great question. Through the chair. It is important to wait to know what it is I need to put on the application for OTIF. So, and I've been dealing with Dylan, not that they're working for North Perth and St. Mary's, but they contact me a lot because I have all the historical data. And I've the last time we spoke, they're getting pretty close to making their recommendations to those two councils, because it's also part of a budget process too, depending on what they're going to go with. But I need that information so I can put it on the application, going back to what I said before about, hey, what is it you're going to introduce that's new, whether it's new partner, new service, whatever the case may be. I need to know what direction North Perth and St. Mary's want to go with that feasibility report, so I can put that, I need that for the application. So, but that probably won't be, I won't know that till January at the earliest. So I kind of have to wait from that, because that's an important piece to the puzzle for that OTIF application. I need to know what it is they want to introduce.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor?
Okay, yeah, I guess some comments. To Mr. Moser's comment about the carrot dangle, having participated in delegations with MTO as recently as at Roma in January of this year, I can confirm when talking to ministry staff about PC Connect, when it was run by the county, the ministry staff did say that they are not looking to, what they want to see is partnership with the municipalities. They want to see the municipalities coming forward and say, yes, we have a plan. Yes, we are willing to contribute to that plan. But municipalities that are looking for support from the ministry will be looked upon much more favorably if they have a plan and if they're willing to contribute as opposed to municipalities that aren't willing to contribute. So to further to Mr. Moser's point, to CAO Hobson's point, yes, this would get us in the door. This would get us in a position where we can qualify for funding, where we could enact a service that people were using before, and now they're no longer able to access it. Looking at numbers, 153,000 or 155,000 times 3 years is 465,000. So while I was out, due to my declared conflict, I was standing in the lobby and I was staring across the road in the dark at the pavilion. And I will go back to my budget meeting comments about the pavilion. We've spent this municipality, municipal tax dollars, we put in $700,000 into that facility in 3 years. How many riders, I'll call them riders, how many riders were over at the pavilion today? Probably zero. So where I'm going with this is that consider the cost of, yes, we have to consider the cost of operating and maintaining the service, but let's consider the cost of not having the service. The economic cost for people that want to go to and from work and they can't. And it's a barrier to them because they do not have the affordable transportation to get to work. It's a loss to the worker. It's a loss to the employer. People that want to seek medical help, barrier, can't get there. Can't afford to get there otherwise. Think of the increased costs to the healthcare system, and in particular, the ambulance service that we pay for the county through the county levy. And mobile integrated health, when people are stuck in their homes and they need extra help to come to them. And think of the people that want to take that bus to go to school and can't. It's a barrier. So they lose their future opportunities at education. They lose their opportunities at bettering themselves. So in summary, I think it's a very important program because the measure of the success of a community or a success of a community can be measured in how we help the people that need the help the most. And yes, there are concerns about the initial cost, but I think over the long term, this will be very beneficial to the growth of the community, as the mayor was alluding to with the growth that we have planned for this area. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Brink?
Mayor McKenzie, one more question for CAO Hobson. In the report, you were talking about the contribution to a reserve balance might go negative or positive depending on how much OCIF funding. Is that something that we can hold here internally, that we pay what we need over the next 3 years and hold that reserve here internally rather than the corporation of PC Connect holding it for us if it's not being needed in the future by us?
The short answer is no. It would be the entity, the partnership administered by City of Stratford that would be applying to the OTIF funding. So they would, I'm assuming you hold those funds in City of Stratford for what's there, but yeah. So we would enter into partnership agreements and they would identify all of that, but.
I can elaborate a bit on that. So with the two partners I have, so St. Mary's and North Perth, what we do now for their contribution is the city invoices them quarterly for what we think their portion's going to be. We've been doing that for years, so that's kind of how that works. So St. Mary's puts their whatever they decided on for budget, what they're going to put towards the project, and Stratford just invoices in department. That's kind of how it works so far.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. Then, so if we sign a 3-year agreement, what kind of expectation could this council have in terms of in the next steps and follow up to that agreement and how it's going to be structured? Are we delegating the authority now to you today, or will we have a look at that agreement as a team and make some recommendations? And then after it gets going, do we get regular updates on as we did from PC Connect before?
No, that's a great question. We have a draft agreement now, but I'm correct if I'm wrong, but I think we were looking at some amendments to that just as a partnership as a whole. And I say that recognizing we're not in the partnership yet, but we've been welcomed into the meetings to add our input. And then, yeah, since doing that, I've gotten kind of the regular updates. I think just today we got November ridership and stuff like that. So I think we would see the monthly reports coming forward to council. If council wishes to see the agreement, I'm happy to bring that forward to them. I think at this point, the timeline really for us and for council is adding the budget item and getting our budget complete. So, I think that's one hurdle. And then, getting into the agreement is our next hurdle. But I think that's how it would go. Mike, maybe you have up more on regular updates or anything, but I think the data comes in, so.
Yeah, I give updates to the partners that we have now, whether it's ridership or marketing initiatives. I'd make sure everyone's kept in the loop, from the CAO level, and then the CAOs can share with councils. And I can even show up like tonight. I've shown up to St. Mary's numerous times to talk about PC Connect and North Perth. So more than happy to come talk about transit.
Sorry, I would just add too that I think there's some discussion that certainly can happen around the table if we get to that point about where stops could or should be. Particularly the timetable. I know we've got a draft one already that I think Mike was pretty happy and pretty impressed with just how it kind of worked out naturally. So as he said, there might be some tweaking there as well, but those are other things we can bring forward.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Chessel.
So how soon would our first rider be able to board the bus?
So we're probably looking at, since probably the majority of the stops, if we're going to go with the route that I drafted, barring anything that might come from a consultant that might kind of look at that a little different route. I'm probably looking at, because we have to do some bus stop agreements, especially for those that are on private property. Fairly standard. It's not that complicated. Most of these stops that we would probably visit on a new rural route are stops that we've used in the past, so it shouldn't be that difficult. I would hope if we hear the Dilla consultants from North Perth and St. Mary's in January, I would hope by spring we would have a new rural route. Because the other thing I need to get another bus from the service provider, and they need to hire a driver. Hiring drivers is a little bit more complicated than it used to be, but it'd be easy to say by spring or earlier. It depends how quick you want to put it in, because really it doesn't really have anything to do with Dillon consultants and their feasibility study. You could probably, if I got aggressive with it, probably 2-3 months.
Anybody else? I guess the only comment that I'll make, and I'll probably regret this afterwards, but I know it's a new venture for us. We paid indirectly through the county before, but you look at the services that we provide in West Perth, none of them are profitable. You look at the arena, you can look at the library, we can look at the pool, we can look at the fire services. There's nothing that we are involved in that really is a profitable entity to go into. And I know that some of us are having a struggle, to come up with new dollars for something like this. But it's just the way it is, but it is a service, and people look for that service. So I'll leave it there. If there is nothing further, Councillor Chessel again, go ahead.
is a bus our only option, or are there other types of vehicles that we could use on our routes and potentially increase the size of our vehicle if our ridership increases?
Through the chair. So presently our service provider, the buses they use are 20-passenger buses. They're also AODA compliant, so they have a lift on the back. So you because we're regulated by the province with AODA legislation, you can't just use like a school bus. It has to be accessible. And accessible could be a lift on the back, which these buses have, or it could be a low floor bus where the front of the bus lowers and a ramp comes out. Those they're a little bit more expensive, but they have to be specifically AOD compliant to serve all the population. For those that have mobility issues, especially, they have to be compliant that way.
Anybody else? Oh, Councillor O'Donnell.
I
go
guess
ahead.
just a quick question. What numbers do we want to see to make it beneficial for riders?
I don't know that I can answer that. Like, I guess that's a philosophical question. If you get one person the help they need by bringing them to the mental health, or are we talking 50 people to work? I can't answer that. If we're looking for a revenue recapture or something, like maybe that's a route to go, but I think that's up to council.
I don't know the numbers, Phil, and I should. Like, we did have the numbers that people boarded in Mitchell at the arena. But I do know that when I was at functions at the arena, I think the one instance we were doing interviews over there, and the bus was coming in on a fairly regular basis, and there was always somebody getting on, you know? It was never that it came in and just drove out empty. There was always, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people there. And I think, you know, the advantage to us maybe with Stratford and, you know, and maybe lesser Mount Listowel, but certainly people in this area, you know, if they go to a hospital or a medical type, it'll be to Stratford. Some of the southern part of West Perth go to St. Mary's, you know. But I think those would be our key areas that of uses for that particular type of person or purpose. And there are a number of elderly that don't drive, you know, and they find it an inconvenience if they have to go and visit a spouse or whoever that's in the hospital. It's just something that's there for a different group than what we normally deal with. It, like I said, it's different than people that use the libraries. It's certainly different than the people that use the arena. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Sorry, Mike, I'll toss one at you quick, but obviously the one route was decommissioned for low ridership. Is there maybe an industry standard or formula of that to, I don't know if that gets to your question, Counselor, but
The route that was canceled was not due to low ridership. It was due to municipal dollars from the county. And tough decisions, right? Do you have road infrastructure or do you fund a bus, right? And that's the decision Perth County had, and they decided not to do the bus anymore. And that's the only reason, because it was that rural route was outperforming my other 3 routes. Like it was 800-900 rides a month on the rural route compared to my 500-600 maybe per route otherwise. So it performed well when it was running.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Duck.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you back on the spot again. Has there been a marketing or advertising plan put together? So obviously there was people that were utilizing this before, then it got axed. They no longer had this ride, and now it's being reintroduced. A lot of these people have probably found ulterior methods there's obviously the one-offs for appointments and stuff like that, but my concern is that these people have said, you know, we can't rely on PC Connect because it's been canceled. Now we're bringing it back. Is there a way we can go out to those people and make sure that they're aware that this is back and we're not just setting it back up and hoping they come back? We actually go out and we make sure that people that were on it before, and I know that there's metrics with buying tickets and stuff like that, that I'm sure you can access, that we can go back and we can say like, you know, please come back to our service. We're not going to let you down. You know, we've introduced a 10-year plan, a 3-year plan, whatever, but we're not just going to say, yes, here's the 155,000 and then just hope it comes back. Like, I think there needs to be a set plan so people are aware, people know, and in all the communities and the communities around too that it's servicing. So just if curious if there's a plan for that.
Yes, and great question through the chair. Maggie Kerr, who worked for the county, was a great marketer. She was one of the partners that the three of us starting it up. She was great at marketing, and we'll continue. We haven't done much marketing because there's really not much to boast about, but there will be a marketing campaign. We'll do radio like we did back in the day when we introduced it. All the newspapers. We had electronic board, outside board and listable. I think that we used. We did a lot of customer surveys to find out what is it they were looking for, or what can we do better type of things. So we did tons of marketing, and we have a budget for marketing as well. We even did a couple videos from a local video, which is fantastic videos. Actually, I run, because I have media screens on my big buses in Stratford, I run the PC Connect video on that all the time, and it's free marketing. So yeah, we'll get back to doing all those things like we did, because there'll probably be some changes to my 3 routes once we go through all this, and the introduction of the rural route. There'll be some new cool stuff to talk about and to market. So yes, we will be marketing.
Just follow up more so for our staff. Can we also put an emphasis on that too? You know, using our board, just different marketing strategies that we can use. So when we're ensuring as a municipality, we're doing our part to promote the project.
Certainly, I think we will. I will disclose we don't have a plan yet. We were kind of waiting for approval before developing a plan. So, but I appreciate Mike's comments that they've got some tools in the toolbox as well.
Okay, anything else? Oh, sorry, Councillor Rose.
I was just wondering, does this kind of we have West Perth Transit, which used to be called the mobility bus. Do they kind of are at odds with each other, or do they work in partnership with each other, or?
I'll let Doug answer that one.
Mitchell, our Mitchell Mobility meeting was last week, and James presented this and talked about there and through the carrot out, and we were kind of looking to see. There was no comments from any of them. They felt their ridership was kind of their own niche, and that they were at capacity now. So they didn't seem to be interested in taking on something like that or adding vehicles, and same thing, drivers, and they have all those headaches that you do too. So that was general consensus at the meeting.
Okay. I don't want to cut the discussion short, but we do have a few other things to deal with yet tonight. So if there's no further questions, I'll read the recommendation and we'll go from there. Oh, okay.
I guess, yeah, I just based on some of the discussion around the table, I'll clarify that right now, the transit cost sits in the budget as presented. So we had a recommendation here tonight to get direction to enter into the agreement. If council is wishing to see that agreement, then I think there should be a bit of an amendment to that recommendation at this time. But you know, staff be directed, or sorry, I guess I know I'm looking at you now.
Well, I don't need to see the agreement, no. So I think we can carry on the way it is in the recommendation.
So just repeat that, sorry.
Yeah, carry on the way it is in the recommendation. I don't think we need to take a look at that. I'll leave that with the CAO.
Okay. So we'll do, Counselor O'Donnell, sorry.
Could we just see it as like if it was a 5-day program or a 6-day program, like what one day would cost?
I can tell you that. I do, because I look at these numbers all the time through the chair. It's about, we pay $97 per hour, per service hour per vehicle. So it's about $740 per day for the service that we pay. So that's for the bus and the driver.
That's good, Phil.
I guess, would that be our portion or all the municipalities' portions?
So the way through the chair, so the way it works is, so that, let's say it's $740 per day. If there's 4 routes and 4 partners, kind of gets divided kind of nicely. And it turns out roughly when you subtract the fares that we bring in, because they subtract that off their service, their contract, we pay about $53,000 a month for the 3 services I have now. That's roughly how much it costs. And the fares range from $9,000 to $10,000 a month. So it'll be more like $64,000. They subtract the fares off it because they don't send me the money, or they just deposit it. They keep records of it. So it's about, when you subtract fares, presently it's about $54,000 a month for the 3 routes that I run presently. But it's $740 a day. Multiply that by, if you go 6 days, so you run a Monday to Saturday, and then multiply that by 4. That will roughly give you how much a month.
Counselor Phelps, you got a question?
Just a comment to the 5-6 day, and I'm just guessing, but 5 days is typically your work week and 6 days is your shopping and your other things. And also hospital appointments don't typically run anymore Monday to Friday either. There could be any time through the week, time or day. It gives them another option to get there. But I think the Monday to Friday route is their plan for school, jobs or appointments, and that opportunity on Saturday is just the shoppers, and that other day that you can't do that because you're tied to the bus schedule. But if we're going to do it, we might as well do it the 6 days, run it for 3 years and look at the numbers and get updates as we go, and we'll have a clear picture in 3 years.
And through the chair, and you're right, I crunched some numbers, and I was actually impressed. The ridership numbers on Saturday was about 22% of the Monday to Friday. It was actually very busy on a Saturday. And I agree, and you're correct. You know what, even a year down the road, there's nothing saying we can't put the fares up. There's nothing saying we can't knock a Saturday off. There's lots of options to try to recoup some of the revenue that we want to see more of, or we want to pay less into the project. There's things that you can do.
Okay. I'll read the recommendation. I had to check with James. We are doing the recommendation, so I'll read it and see if we have a mover and seconder and go from there. So the recommendation is the Council of Municipality of West Perth direct staff to enter into a 3-year transit partnership agreement with the City of Stratford, the Town of St. Mary's, and the Municipality of North Perth, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. So do we have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor moves. Councillor Phelps seconds that. Last chance for discussion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, now we got to back up here. Yeah, you want to, can we take a couple minutes before we get into the drain? I'm sorry. Can we do the drain first, maybe? Is that the next thing on the agenda, is the drain? Yeah. Let's do the drain. Yeah, let's do the drain and then we'll take a break. How's that? Okay? So I got to get my right page here. Now we're jumping around a little bit because people have been patient, have been waiting here. It is the Cook Municipal Drain, and I have down here branch 2D and E. And so Jacob Rourke from Burnsides, and you brought the chief with you, I see tonight. So, yeah, rather than keep you around all night, we'll do this now and then we'll take a quick break.
Great, thank you, Mr. McKenzie. And as you mentioned, I'm here with Paul McIntyre, who's a fellow engineer at RJ Burnside, and we co-authored the Cook Municipal Drain Report. So it's nice to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. So as Mr. McKenzie mentioned, this report speaks to branches 2D and E of the Cook Municipal Drain. Burnside was appointed on 3 separate occasions, the first on January 16th, the second April 7th, and the third on July 7th, and those are all in 2025. And that was under Section 78 and Section 4 of the Ontario Drainage Act. So this is the watershed plan for the Cook Municipal Drain. The line in blue is branch number 2, and this services the David and Margaret Penner property, the Apple Rock Farm property, all the way up to the Windmill Family Campground. And then the red line that is running east-west across the screen is branch D, and that is an open drain, so it's channel drain. And then the pink line that heads to the south is branch E, and that's a tile drain. So in total, branch 2 is approximately 800 meters of pipe system and another 400 or so meters of open channel, which heads across Perth County Road 163. Branch D is approximately 700 meters of open channel. And then branch E is roughly 400 meters of closed tile drain. So when we were reviewing this, we found that the municipal drains that were mentioned service approximately 124 hectares or just over 300 acres of land. The existing branch 2 and E tile drains are in poor condition. They're shallow and undersized. There was actually no record of construction for the branch 2 tile drain. So originally there was a request for improvement that was submitted. And once we dug into it, we found that there was no actual supporting bylaw or previous report that authored the construction of that tile. So at that time, we spoke with James and we had the owners sign a petition to reestablish this as a legally standing municipal drain. And the E drain was constructed in 1969 and has not been reconstructed since. And we also found that the Perth Road 163 culvert is not deep enough to provide an outlet for the newly proposed tile drains. The drains that we're proposing are larger in diameter to meet current design standards and also deeper to support the subsurface tiling. And I spoke with Perth County and Chuck Blancher with the roads department about this, and we discussed replacing that culvert. So again, recommendations in our report is we're planning to improve the current tiles that are branch 2 and branch E, again, deeper and larger to a current design standard, which is an 1.5 inch coefficient. That's the maximum design standard that the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food will provide their 1/3 grant to agricultural tax properties. And we would like to, as mentioned, replace the Perth County Road 163 culvert and then update the watershed to match the current conditions. So this is specific to branch D of the Cook drain. There's adjacent drainage projects going on, and the watershed needed to be updated to reflect the current drainage patterns in order to have consistency between the different drains for accurate maintenance schedules. So a brief cost summary. So the total estimated cost in the report is $605,000. We're anticipating roughly $120,000 in grant from OMAFA. Again, this is a May pay program through OMAFA, but generally this is paid to properties who have agricultural tax. And then you see there's a fairly large cost to Perth County. And again, this cost was discussed with them for the replacement of that cross culvert. It was noted that it's nearing end of life. And Chuck again was in favor of replacing that. And then for the municipality of West Perth, there's a almost $80,000 assessment. There is proposed road crossings on line 16. And then there's assessment for the use of the municipal drain as well. That's everything that I have to present on the report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I look at that and I see that 50% of the cost of that drain is from roads in West Perth, whether it's county or West Perth. So we're doing our fair share on that drain, I think. Any questions with regards to that drain? Councillor Vink?
Through you, Mayor McKenzie, have you had a chance to speak with the landowners, and do any landowners have any concerns? Will we have any show up at Court of Revision to dispute their assessment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vink. We did have two public meetings. The first meeting was held, I believe, on March 18th is what the report states. We did have a fairly low turnout to this meeting. I was the one owner who had requested the project. We also held a second meeting, I believe it was early in September. And I had phoned all of the assessed owners that I had contact information for, and we had a good turnout for that meeting. And I followed up with the owners who weren't able to be present. I'm not anticipating any appeals at the Court of Revision, although that is available to owners, and ultimately we'll have to see if someone shows up. But at this point, I wouldn't be anticipating appeals.
Any other questions? Oh, sure, go ahead.
Through the chair, I just wanted to comment and commend from the municipal side. Both Paul and Jake have done a lot of work on this drain, as you probably noticed. It felt like there were many parts coming together at different points in this project. So I just wanted to commend them from a communication standpoint and providing good support to us staff at the municipality for it. So thank you.
No, good point. I think the one property owner had maybe all three of them through their property. And, it's unusual that you would have that many in 1 year, all at the same time. But obviously there hasn't been a lot of attention paid to the drains over the years, and it all comes due at once. So, yeah, no, good. Okay, if there's no further questions, then the recommendation that we have here is that the municipality of West Perth accepts the report dated July the 22nd from RJ Burnside and Associates Limited for the Cook Municipal Drain Branch 2, D, and E, and that the council provisionally adopt the engineer's report for the Cook Municipal Drain Branch 2, D, and E by giving first and second reading to bylaw 71, 2025, and that the Court of Revision for the Cook Municipal Drain Branch 2, D, and E be scheduled for January the 12th, 2026. Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. So thank you very much. Can you hang on for another minute? We can take a break now if you want. We'll take the break. We still have one drain to deal with, but we'll take the break. Okay, the first item here is another drainage request, and this is the Campbell Hustle Drain. James, you want to speak to this one at all?
Sure, happy to. Sorry, bear with me just one moment, members of council. So you'll recognize this drain as one that you've seen previously and already appointed an engineer to. And in the process, in one of the site meetings that took place there, an additional request was received in relation to the drain. Essentially what it is a nearby property owner, Murray Kane, has petitioned submitted by Al Kane for a 20-meter extension of the proposed Campbell Hustle drain to go across line 26 and improve the drainage on the petitioner's agricultural land. So again, what we're essentially asking you to do tonight is appoint the same engineer who you've already appointed for this project in order to do an addendum or add on to their report for that additional 20-meter extension of the drain. The report has not yet been filed with the municipality, so there will be the opportunity for them to revise the report before submitting it to the municipality and triggering that next step for consideration of that report. I'll leave it there at this time unless there's any questions from council, and I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions? Okay, the recommendation that we have is that the municipality of West Perth accepts the petition received by Al Kane on behalf of owner Murray Kane under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, and staff be directed to notify the affected landowners and appropriate agencies of council's decision to proceed with the drainage works, and that the council municipality of West Perth appoint Curtis McIntyre of K Smart Associates Limited to prepare an addendum or supplementary report under Section 8, subsection 4 of the Drainage Act to address the extension of the proposed Campbell Hustle municipal drain. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Harold, Councillor Foster. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. The next item is a sign variance, and I'm hoping that we still have Matt on the line here somewhere. Can you hear us, Matt? I don't hear him.
Can you hear me
Are
now?
you with us, Matt?
Can
Okay,
you hear me?
there we come. Yep, you're coming through now. Okay,
Coming through now?
yep.
Okay. So let's try this. So for council's consideration is a sign bylaw variance, also known as the exceptional circumstances application. I know it's a little bit of weird wording with that. The building department has received a building permit application for a billboard sign located on line 32. The proposed sign exceeds the maximum size permitted in the sign bylaw, hence the need for the variance. Although the sign exceeds the maximum permitted size by 70%, the billboard sign is standard within the industry and allows for no waste product. They get to use basically standard dimension materials. Some sign details. So the proposed double-sided sign measures 11.2 meters squared in area per side, and they're limited to 7 meters squared per side. The sign location meets zoning and all remaining sign bylaw requirements. Engineer stamp drawings were provided with the building permit application, and all associated fees will be paid with this application. And I can take any questions at this time.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt on this? We've had a few of them over the last year or so. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor McKenzie. Question for Matt. Are you able to divulge, like, obviously it's a billboard for advertising. Are you able to divulge to council, like, what kind of advertising? Is it for like a local farm business, or what's the nature of that?
Yeah, so through the mayor, this was actually brought up earlier through the clerk and through the mayor. What happens a lot of times is the sign companies will actually contact landowners about putting up billboards. Is usually not the other way around. Usually the property owner isn't looking to put up a billboard. So a lot of times they'll speculate on billboard locations. They'll put up the billboard and then they'll just basically put up a sign that says rent me, call this phone number. So they would have to meet the sign bylaw requirements for what's to be proposed on the sign. Just at this point, they don't have anything proposed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, the recommendation that we have is that the municipality of West Perth approves the application for exceptional circumstances pursuant to the sign bylaw 80-2010 for the property located at lot 27 concession 2. Mover and seconder for that. It's in Hibbert. I'll take a Hibbert. Councillor Fournier, Councillor Vink. Any further questions? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, thank you, Matt. Sorry to keep you so late.
No, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is treasurer and its accounts receivable policy. So Wendy, I'll ask you to come up and run through that for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor Mackenzie and Council. So before you is policy number FIN 006. It's accounts receivable policy. We kind of had it started early this year, and we've been working with each department and seeing kind of what we do and documenting it. And so that's how this policy came to be being created. A lot of work with different department heads and different updates to bylaws has, I guess, brought some of this information forward. And so what the policy is doing is it's establishing a corporate approach to your billing and collection process. It standardizes it and makes us more efficient. And so if there's any questions on any of the appendices, happy to take them. They do deal with your property taxes, water, wastewater, your municipal drains and tile drains, special agreements, facilities and parks, community service programs, and then just general receivables.
Thanks, Wendy. Questions for Wendy on that? Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor Mackenzie, through you, Wendy. So with this policy, the intent will, or the desired outcome is to streamline our processes and make this, make the system more accountable just make the system more accountable overall.
Yeah, I think it's looking at the past year and walking through the process. I think it was identified there was different terms for different structures. And so this allows it to all be the same and consistent, and it's documented. So then people have a reference to go to if you were to look at some of the programming, like swimming, for example, it's paid upon registration and things like that. So it's clear for people and even for staff to know how to handle what a receivable is and when you would actually enter into an invoice and terms with the customers.
So then this should, through you, Mayor, if I might, with the follow-up, so this should greatly reduce any oversights or discrepancies in terms of the billing and collecting on those bills.
Yeah, so we've starting in September, we've been kind of running a dual system between finance and the rec department, and we used to reconcile on an annual basis, so in December. But we were realizing that there was a gap there, and so we kind of backed it up and started doing it monthly. And so now the process is they get charged interest, they get statements just like any other department. So it does get your receivables paid on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Vink?
Mayor Mackenzie, I was wondering if we should have some thresholds added to the write-offs that a certain dollar amounts that the write-offs by the treasurer or then by the CAO or then by council that might be appropriate to add that in there. And then maybe an annual report on the performance of receivables as well too, that we would, as council, know how well the receivables are doing or not doing.
if I could follow up with that, we definitely looked at the thresholds and we kind of monitored them. And originally we did have thresholds in there. But it's really hard because you could go from a rental to a drain write-off. So it could go from like $50 to like thousands of dollars. So it was hard for us to put a threshold on there, but definitely open to it. We looked at it. And when we looked at certain items that were potentially getting written off, definitely had that threshold in mind. So open to it and yeah. And I think we did bring your receivable for taxes this year, so that was helpful. The way it all works is everything can be transferred over to taxes, which is great. It's only when people don't have property, then we're looking at writing them off or using a third-party collection agency.
Nicholas?
Yeah, so I think we should add some thresholds in there. Because I think it's important, like, if we're talking about the difference between $50 or $50,000, I think that needs a different set of checks and balances, whether it's the treasurer, CAO, or council. And then we can even go as far as adding some direct discretionary forgiveness of interest and penalties. So somebody else could say, yes, you missed the payment by a couple days on your water bill, and we don't need to charge the interest and penalty for a couple days because of exceptional circumstances. Is that a problem?
I don't think it works on taxes. If you miss a day, too bad.
I'm talking recreation as an
Yes.
example.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, as Wendy said, it's kind of hard. Like, I don't know whether Wendy could come back with some, criteria maybe. We get a list, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember here. But if we have some accounts that we're going to write off, we get that information before we actually write it off, don't we?
In the past, no.
Okay.
Not since I've been the treasurer. As far as writing things off, we don't. So taxes are payable and due, and everything is transferred over to taxes. So typically we don't do write-offs. I would say a lot of what I've seen in the past year has been more forgiveness on customer service end of for us. So if there was a rec program and there was some communication issues, then there was maybe extension agreements. We have seen for utilities, some exemptions for people with water meters, the old meters, and getting the final bills and kind of working out a payment arrangement. But we don't typically forgive.
So I guess I'm kind of coming back here again. So do we want some type of cap? Well, as Wendy has said, it's kind of hard to do depending on what it is, but it's at the will of council. If you want something added there, we can do that. We're good? Councillor Foster?
I'd be comfortable with leaving as far as the caps kind of how it is. As long as we get some sort of annual report to make sure there's nothing too problematic happening necessarily.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll do the recommendation and see where we go here. So the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth approves the corporate policy FIN 006 being the accounts receivable policy. So we have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Foster. Don't all jump at once. Councillor O'Donnell. Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, through you, Mayor McKenzie, I'd like to add an amendment that a review of the policy be brought back to council for submission and discussion in a year's time.
Okay, yeah, we can incorporate that, couldn't we? Right in there, couldn't we? And we could almost just add that to that motion, couldn't we?
It may be worthwhile if you notice section 6 of the policy as the proposed date of next review. So just, I would say amending that to December 1st, 2026.
Okay, is that
Just
there,
perhaps.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes,
Fine?
that's the desired
Okay.
effect. Thank you.
All right, yep, no, sounds good. Okay, so we've added that in. And we haven't voted on that yet, have we?
You've not.
We've got a mover and seconder, and we had discussion. Okay, so are we ready for the vote? What,
I think you should confirm with your mover and seconder if they want to add that in, or we should just treat it as a straight amendment.
I thought I did that. Dean's nodding his head, yes.
Okay, means good.
Yeah. And we're okay with, Alex, you're okay adding that in and Phil?
Phil,
Good,
great.
okay,
Okay,
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
yeah,
Thanks.
no problem. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, the next one then is fees and charges bylaw amendment. Wendy?
So this one, we saw that once we got the bylaw done, there was some amendments. And some of them are clerical in nature, and then some of them are new schedules. So the community service one identified some clerical formatting issues, so more housekeeping issues.
Sorry, can we just switch out your mic? I don't know.
There must be a gremlin in the system or something. Is that better? Yeah. So I'll start again. The fees and charges bylaw identified that there were some adjustments or amendments that needed to be made, and most of them are clerical in nature. I don't know if my mic's still doing that buzzy thing because I can hear it. No, okay. Yeah. So on the community service one, we identified that some of the fees were through a season, and so we made an adjustment on the fees and charges bylaw to identify what season things are charged at. So it just brings more clarification to the end user. And then for your water, wastewater, when they went through the review of those bylaws, some additional charges were identified, mostly around your fire connections, new connections, and then charge out rates. And so they are now incorporated into your fees and charges bylaw. And then the planning schedule, there was some adjustments through the county in adjusting the fees for, because they did a review and they were doing cost recovery. And so through all that, all the partners got together, and then there were some changes after we had brought forward our fees and charges bylaw. So these are just those amendments. And then under schedule, or yes, section O, under building fees, the only change there is the $300 for trees, and that's for development in that 3-to-1 ratio to replace a tree. And so those are all your changes for your fees and charges bylaw. And happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Questions, anybody? I think this is the second or third time we brought it within the last year. We just keep having little tweaks now and again. So if there's no questions, then the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth approve bylaw 69, 2025 being the fees and charges bylaw. Mover and seconded for that, Councillor Phelps, seconded by Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, we've done the next one. Correspondence, there's 5 items of correspondence plus 3 more that came additionally. Any comments? I don't know whether Dean wants to add anything for the 3 from the conservation authorities or not. Councillor Foster?
I was wondering if we could do like a letter of support or something of that nature for 9.5 for Perth East and their comments on the tree bylaw or anything like that. I don't think so. It's just kind of information, but I wasn't sure and I thought I'd ask.
I think it's just a letter from another municipality and they're just telling us what they're doing. Yeah, I think I just leave it at that. I guess you can ask if you want, but I think we were just copied on a letter that is being sent to the county with regards to the tree bylaw. That would be my take on it anyways. Did I have a good take? Yeah, okay, all right. But the letter from the Conservation Authority is a little bit different and it came at the last minute type of thing. So I don't know if there's anybody has any questions on it or if you want to add anything. We've got 3 members of Conservation Authorities here if they want to highlight anything or not.
Oh, through you, Mayor McKenzie, I'll defer to Councillor Harold and Councillor Fournier to make their comments first, and then I'll follow in after that.
You want to go first, Councillor Harold?
I don't know if I have much to add. The letter pretty much says it all if you had
Yeah.
a chance to look at it, really. I can't do anything more except repeat what it says.
No, fair enough. Councillor Fournier?
Very, very much the same as Councillor Harold. Thank you.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And last but not least, Upper Thames.
Okay,
Dean?
thanks, Mayor McKenzie. So it's 10:06 at night, and this is going to take a while because it needs to take a while. So October 31st, Bill 68, Schedule 3 was announced by the province of Ontario. Schedule 3 proposes to merge 36 local conservation authorities into 7 regional conservation authorities. Currently, Upper Thames would be consolidated into what is being proposed as the Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority, together with 7 other CAs, and that would encompass 81 municipalities. The government or province, in their announcement, is stating that this new governance structure is proposed to be effective following the 2026 municipal elections. So basically, the manner in which conservation authorities exist right now, the way they're represented, the way that they're governed, the province is saying they're going to change that. They're going to introduce an oversight body, a provincial agency that would take their direction from the province and relay that direction down to the 7 regional authorities. The direction would deal with finances, it would deal with strategic planning, it would deal with land use management, it would deal with everything that conservation authorities currently undertake. So what the difference is that local representation, the 3 conservation authorities that serve this municipality, your representatives in all likelihood will not be at this table. Your direct input to the 3 of us, Councillor Harold, Councillor Fournier, and myself, would not exist. Most likely, like given the odds that out of the, well, just using Upper Thames as an example, the odds that your representative would be a local one, pretty much non-existent. In terms of the local aspect, speaking for Upper Thames, we have millions of dollars of local tax money held in reserve. We have millions of dollars of lands that have either been funded through municipal tax dollars or they have been funded by, I'll say, donors or contributors that donated the land to the local authority on the proviso that that land would continue to be managed and maintained by a local authority. That will all change if the bill has already passed. it was passed here in the last, I think it was last week. Things are moving so fast that we can't keep track of it. Like I said, this was announced on October 31st. The conservation at 10 a.m. by the minister. At 8 a.m. on October 31st, the conservation authorities were given a briefing by the minister. We had 2 hours heads up. No warning, no discussion, no debate. Just told this is what's happening. November the 18th was the next opportunity that the conservation authorities received from the ministry to provide more details. That conversation lasted on a Teams meeting for 1 hour. 30-minute presentation, 35 to 20, the remaining 25 minutes were for questions from the 36 conservation authorities. We had more questions than answers after that 1 hour. We still have more questions than answers than that 1 hour. And as Councillor Harold and Fournier pointed out, the letters speak for themselves. The way this is proposed right now, the government does not have a clear plan. They haven't presented a clear business case. I'll refer to page 4 of the Upper Thames, because that's the report I'm most familiar with. We outline the concerns about the assets. A thorough financial and legal due diligence process is necessary to assess the existing liabilities, assets, and any restrictions on current funding or land transfers. Under the proposed model, all assets and reserves will be transferred to the regional CA, significantly reducing the ability of local municipalities to influence decisions about lands and resources in their own communities. For example, UTRCA owns and/or manages more than 5,800 hectares, 14,300 acres of land within the Upper Thames River watershed, spread across some 40 properties. Many of these properties were entrusted to the UTRCA for long-term protection, stewardship, and the public good, with the expectation that such lands would be cared for by locally governed conservation authorities. Local matters, consolidating and local in brackets matters. Consolidating and potentially centralizing administration could reduce responsiveness, delay decisions, and weaken the local expertise and community connections that are fundamental to effective watershed management. Conservation authorities were built on strong local relationships and face-to-face communication. Boots on the ground are essential for effective monitoring, stewardship, enforcement, and community engagement. Key messages, I'll try and be brief. The size and the scope of the Lake Erie Region CA is too large. A more measured approach would be to deliver on provincial goals without all the negative consequences of the current proposal. The province is intent on streamlining delivery of services. They're intent on creating a digital registry for development applications. Conservation authorities on that point agree wholeheartedly. Yes, this is a necessary, these are necessary objectives. But where conservation authorities disagree is you don't need to, if that's the goal, then why do you need to merge 36 into 7? It would be the same thing as if the West Perth Building Department, let's merge all the lower tiers in Perth County so that the West Perth Building Department can function more efficiently. Why is that necessary? Why not just go about the means of improving those two items and leave the rest up to local authority, local control, the way it is right now? Governance models must continue to support local decision-making through municipal representation, balancing rural and urban priorities and interests. So right now, the watershed extends from North Perth, or from the north end of West Perth down to over towards Woodstock and down the other way. to just southeast of London. So the new region would extend the Lake Erie region would extend all the way Windsor, Pelee Island, up to North Perth, past Grand River, past Kitchener-Waterloo, and end up somewhere over in Halton region, I think, and then back down the Grand River to Dunnville. So the local aspect of conservation authorities will be lost entirely. And with that, local input, local control. So that there's much more detail in the briefs presented by the three authorities, but that captures it in a nutshell. And what at Upper Thames, what the board has asked is that there's an example municipal resolution. It was created by the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. So what Upper Thames is asking of its member municipalities within the watershed is to include their name on this resolution, and on the back, the resolution would be copied to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, local MPPs, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, area Indigenous communities, all municipalities, all conservation authorities, and Conservation Ontario. The Indigenous communities have not been consulted on this. Local municipalities have not been consulted on this. This bill went from first to second reading to third reading with no pause for committee, with no pause for public input. That's why it's a concern, an additional concern to the conservation authorities, and that's why it's an additional concern to the local elected officials that represent this council and these communities in our watersheds. So I would urge this council to adopt this resolution that's included in the package and add their name to it. So if there are any questions, I'll yield the floor back over to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Okay, so there is a request for action on this particular correspondence. The request is that we support, I'm going to call it a resolution, but the letter that's come from all three conservation authorities, and then follow through with the cover copies to the necessary bodies that it asks for. So I will ask for a mover and seconder to support that. Councillor Fournier, Councillor Harold, thank you. Any further discussion? I think Dean's kind of highlighted in pretty good detail. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay, thank you. So the only other thing coming out of this is that the municipality of West Perth accept correspondence as information. So I'll take a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Duck, Councillor Rose, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. I have nothing down for council reports. We do have some bylaws. Bylaw 69 is to repeal and replace bylaw 53 for fees and charges. Bylaw 70 is to provide for the collection of actual costs on the drainage works for the Hillbright drain. Bylaw 71 is drainage works for the Cook Municipal Drain that we just talked about tonight, 2D and E. Zoning bylaw 315 is for the Vanasse, I guess.
Just note that was the one that was applied for.
As applied for, yes. And then 16 is 34. Oh, the Clark one across the street, yes. And then 317 is for the Roney application, lot 11 concession 2. So the recommendation here is that the council municipality of West Perth give first and second reading to bylaw 69, 70, 71, zoning bylaw 315, 316, and 317 this first day of December. So a mover and seconder for first and second reading, Councillor Bink, Councillor Fournier. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And finally, that the municipality of West Perth give third and final reading to bylaw 6970, zoning bylaw 315. I'm slowing up.
Through the chair, apologies. I'm just going to jump in, and this is on bylaw Z 315/2025. So that was the bylaw discussed tonight for 34 Clayton. Because there was direction for the bylaw to be as applied for by the applicant, we need to make amendments or changes to the bylaw that is before you on the agenda this evening, because that bylaw does not reflect what was applied for by the applicant. So we'll need to make those changes to the bylaw and bring that back to you at a future meeting of council. So apologies to jump in.
Okay, no problem. We'll, we've already moved it, but, just first and second. So we won't give, third reading to that. That'll, fix that. And that was 315, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we'll give, third and final reading to, bylaw 6970, 316 and 317 for three readings. That leaves the other one out. So do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor O'Donnell, seconded, Councillor Rose. Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Number of upcoming events. The only one that I'll draw your attention to is Friday night, December the 5th. Santa Claus Parade. We'd kind of like to have a number who are going to show up. We're going to meet out here. The float will be here probably 20 after 6 or so, but we want to leave at 6:30 to be up to the school for 7. So show of hands, who's going to be there? And I don't know how big, well, I know how big the trailer is. I guess we have to see if you want to bring some kids to ride it. Usually the kids want to watch the parade rather than being in it, but they're welcome to join us. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. What's wrong with this side of the table? Maybe if we could just get the names, James, so that we don't take off if we're missing somebody. And if you change your mind and you're not coming, maybe just let us know so that we. Oh, well, you could. Well, look for us. We'll be in the lineup somewhere. Okay. Yep. Okay. No, fair enough. Okay. All right. The parade in Moncton on the Saturday night, and it starts, I have down here 6:30. So we could do the same thing. We can meet somewhere here and go back, but I just need to know who's interested in going on that one. You know, okay. I'm looking at Phil here. That's in your neck of the woods, Phil. Dean? Okay. All right. So we've got the two and that. Okay, good enough. I think that's pretty well got it. The rest are all straightforward there. So I don't have anything other. And we've had a closed session already. So that didn't shave much off time tonight, though.
You guys know the time regardless.
That's right. So the confirmatory bylaw is the next item, and that's bylaw 72, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time this first day of December. So mover and seconder for the first. Okay, there we go. Take your pick, Fournier and Duck. And then the all in favor of that? I'm trying to get out of here. The final one is that third reading to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation Municipality of West Perth be read a third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And then a motion to adjourn at 10:24. Moved by Councillor Phelps, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? We are adjourned. Thank you. Well, we did have a lot of discussion. Question.